God, the intro cinematic to Awakening is so cool. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the stream. There are far too many of you to call out everyone, so I'll just give a general welcome. Hello to everyone. Great to see you all again. I know it's been a while. I'm pretty excited to show what I have to show to you guys today, because actually I look back in my channel. The last time I worked on what I'm going to show was more than a year ago. That was a stream where I basically just played out chapter or prologue and then just started trying stuff in chapter 1 and trying to work out, is there some consistent way we can solve this? And I'll get more into what I mean by that in a little bit, but I went away from that for a long time, and then just earlier this week I started playing around with it again. Noticed a couple things, tried a few different setups, and I think I've got something that works. So there'll be huge egg on my face if something goes wrong today, but I expect that things will go pretty well. I think I've got all my ducks in a row. Don't want to delay too long, but I don't think I have much more to say except that I do want to talk about what I'm trying to achieve and how I'm going to set up my main character Robin and what we're going to do in these first couple of chapters. I do also want to make clear, if any of you are here because you think this is like the beginning of a fully streamed run of Lunatic Plus, it is not that. This is going to be a demonstration where I might develop this into something that I want to play out in full later. In fact, it's been a long time dream of mine to at least work out something like a very robust turn-by-turn strategy for the first couple maps of Lunatic Plus, and then play out at least through chapter 8 or chapter 13 or one of those milestones to show how you can build a strong team and play through Lunatic Plus in a way that isn't just super boring. But because I'm doing things as a kind of demo here, I'm making choices that I probably wouldn't make in a full playthrough, specifically about how we're building Robin. But I do think of this as the foundation of something that could develop into something bigger in the future. So just want to lay that out there. And Ellery says, the way all the chapters connect together is really interesting. You probably go back and iterate on your chapter 1 depending on what you need for 2 to 5. That's very true. One thing I don't really know is exactly how many staff uses I need to save on Lissa, for example. And also there are certain things I can play around with in terms of how I distribute experience, where I might decide that, say, I want to give 1 extra kill to Frederick to help him get an extra level or something before we get into chapter 2. That's very possible. I just don't know if that's what you need to do right now. So I'm really just trying to work out, do I have a solid plan on how I'm going to approach Prologue and especially chapter 1? So I'm not actually going to start the new game, do the premonition and everything, but I do want to talk about character creation. Because what I'm going to do, for the sake of these 2 maps that we're going to see, is choose an asset and flaw combination that is not the worst possible, but is pretty bad. The idea being that I want to develop a strategy that doesn't really depend on having a good Robin, and also isn't super restrictive in terms of how you start with Robin. When I did this more than a year ago, I think I didn't actually review this, but I'm pretty sure I chose plus magic and minus defense. And the reason for choosing minus defense, which is what I'm going to do again here, is because although it's not a very good flaw for Lunatic Plus, it is pretty much objectively the best flaw for post-game stuff. And while a lot of people don't really care about post-game optimization and Awakening anymore, that's kind of fallen out of style, I do think that is interesting. And I think it's cool that you can beat Lunatic Plus and then use that same save file to go build an optimal post-game team for Apotheosis or something. Now, funnily enough, minus defense is far from the worst flaw you can take. I think it might be the 4th best one, or maybe 5th. because generally what you'll see recommended as flaws on Lunatic Plus are skill or luck, kinds of soft stat things that don't really affect your benchmarks. And then failing that, you might choose minus res, because resistance isn't that important, especially in the early game. But then after that, I think minus defense might be your next best choice, or maybe like minus strength. But the thing is, like, minus HP I think is terrible, because losing 3 base HP is just so bad for survivability on Lunatic Plus, where like having just raw HP is such a tremendous boost to your survivability when enemies have Luna Plus. I think minus magic is a real burden, because Robin is your best ranged attacker for your at least the first couple maps, although we'll see some very good work from Virion. We'll give him some credit for that. And I just think it's so disappointing to not hit like basic kill thresholds with your Thunder Tome. And the minus speed is really horrible. I think minus speed is the worst. This is pre-recorded live, yeah. Yes, I am reading chat live. This is the live stream. Prologue says, saving 2 to 3 heals for chapter 3 is usually enough. Just need to have enough to kill the knight for the drop. Yeah, what I'm concerned about is, what if I only have like 7 going into chapter 2? But we'll get into that. As far as asset goes, again, I'm not trying to like require a very good asset for this. So while I would normally recommend probably plus speed or plus magic, if you're not doing plus defense, which is also a good choice for Lunatic Plus, I'm just trying to pick an asset that doesn't really give me major benefits to anything. So for me, the best candidates are either skill or luck. Again, this is just for demo purposes. I don't recommend these choices. I'm going to choose luck as my asset. I think it's actually a better asset than skill, but because skill gives you, I think, +1 hit and +1 crit for -4 dodge, which is I think not a good trade relative to plus luck. And having extra luck will actually be a kind of nice defensive bonus to make what I'm going to do a little bit more reliable. There's a crit chance that we're going to have to face at the end of Prologue that we actually wouldn't face if we weren't taking a minus defense flaw. We would have other ways to mitigate it. But with minus defense or minus HP, Robin gets one-shot by the boss with Crom pair up, and that's kind of, tough. So that's the setup. We're going in with plus luck and minus defense. To reiterate, this is not what I recommend for a Lunatic Plus playthrough. It's meant to be, number one, fairly agnostic about what asset you actually want to take, and number two, able to accommodate some less than ideal flaws like minus defense, which I think is the best post-game flaw, but is not horrible. It's kind of middling, but it's tougher than other flaws could be for Lunatic Plus. You should be able to completely remove the crit chance of the boss by having this and Fred stand next to Robin. Not if you have to fight the boss at 1 range, Ellery. We'll see that. But I think that's all we have to discuss with character creation. So I'm going to jump into the prologue. Also, I should switch my view. I realize I'm only showing the top screen right now, so we'll convert to this one. Don't think you missed anything on the bottom screen so far. Having going to chapter 2 would be pretty bad, but would require pretty crazy expenditure going on in prologue in chapter 1. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. By the way, I did have to tinker with my audio settings. This was like a new scene collection that I put together for OBS. So I hope the audio balance works pretty well. It's kind of hard to tell right now because the game audio is pretty quiet on the character creation. But let me know if my voice is coming through clearly over the gameplay and you can still hear everything just fine. Hopefully it sounds fairly clear. Okay. With that, I will load my save state, which is right at the beginning of Prologue. All right. So what I'm going to show for Prologue is approximately the same strategy that I showed on my stream a year ago. But I'm really just going through it again to show how it's done with this asset and flaw combination. Now, I do want to make clear that what I'm considering to be a fairly reliable clear for this context is not a reset list clear. I'm not doing what KTT has been doing with Lunatic Plus. I think that's amazing, but what I'm trying to do with the strategies I'm developing here is not abuse the water trick to feed a bunch of levels into Robin. So I can't employ all the same tactics that KTT has come up with over the years to like handle every threat that comes at me in a fairly consistent way. There's some things that are just not going to work, or we're going to face significant risk of failure against at least. For the Prologue, if you just want to look around and see, is this a setup that's almost certainly going to work, then there are several key points to look at. What I'm checking for are not having Vantage Plus on this Barbarian, because otherwise Crom has to face an extra attack from him, which he could dodge, but not if he has Vantage Plus and Hawkeye. Not having both Vantage Plus and Luna on this Myrmidon so that Fred can attack him and not take any damage back. Making sure that we don't have Luna on both of the right-hand melee enemies here. If one of them has it, that's fine, just not both. And if one of them does have it, then you don't want to see the exact combination you're seeing here on this mage. Basically, if they have Luna and because of that, they can deal significant damage to Fred. We don't want this mage to be able to hit Fred before Fred one-shots him with the Silver Lance and do a lot of damage. So if this mage has Vantage Plus but no damage boosting skills, that's fine. If he doesn't have Vantage Plus, that's fine. But normally the combination of Vantage Plus and either of his damage boosting skills is bad. This case is tolerable because neither of these guys have Luna on them. And then lastly, we don't want the two barbarians up here to both have Luna again. So similar to this situation, it's okay if one of these guys has it, and it's okay if one of these guys has it, but you don't want both of them to have it. And I think that covers just about everything. So if you run the math on what are the chances of having a good setup like that, it's about 1 in 6. A little bit better than that, I think. And then there are chances to succeed anyway, even if it's not a great setup, because you can just dodge things or get dual guards and stuff. But save yourself some time. It's a good idea to check those things to do what I'm about to do. That said, on Prologue, you should still be able to do the classic full water trick. So if you see a bad setup and you realize, oh, I need to bail and just use the water trick over here to fight all the enemies in the first wave, or use the water trick up here to fight all the enemies in the second wave, whichever group doesn't work out, doesn't have a good skill combination, you can absolutely do that. You'll actually end up with better results than what I'm going to do, because I'm going to play through this map a little bit faster and not use the water trick hardly at all. So I have nothing against using the water trick. I don't think it's illegitimate or anything. I just find it annoying to execute. So one of my priorities was working out a way to play through this chapter that doesn't require that and still gets a respectable amount of experience on both Robin and, importantly, Crom. Crom, it turns out, is really good. If you check his bases in the main physical stats compared to Robin, he's got +1 HP, +1 strength, +2 speed, and +2 defense. Or it would be +1 defense if we were a neutral Flaw instead of minus defense. But he's got at least 1 or 2 points in every important physical stat. And it turns out that that's really, really helpful early on in Awakening. Crom turns out to be a lot more capable of fighting the enemies in melee than Robin is. Partly because not only does he have better stats, but he also has stronger weapons. His 2 swords have 5 might. Robin's stuck with a 3 might bronze sword, so it's kind of like having a 3 strength lead on Crom. And because of the mechanics of Awakening, where pair bonuses are affected by hitting multiples of 10s in your different stats, it's surprisingly important, for example, to be at 8 speed instead of 6 or 7 to start. Having 8 speed means Crom can reasonably expect to have 10 speed by about level 5, Like his chances to get there are really good, and that means he'll give an extra point of speed on his pair-up bonuses, in addition to benefiting from his own speed himself. I'm not going to give a ton of experience to Frederick, but I am going to give him some. And like I mentioned when before we got started, it may well be that after working things out for future chapters, I realize actually it would be better if Fred got a little bit more experience. That's something we could play with down the line. I'm just not certain of that, and it is true that everyone else will get more experience for their kills than Frederick will. Okay. So this setup should work for us. The way I'm going to start is by having Robin go over here between everyone. And then he'll give the bronze sword to Crom, but then pair up to Lissa.
Right.
Who just switches to him here and waits. Robin's in range of 2 enemies, but we can eliminate one of them by having Frederick ride to this spot and blast the Myrmidon with the Silver Lance. And now, because Crom has the bronze sword, what he can do is he can pass that off to Fred, along with all of Crom's own sword, so that Crom doesn't have a weapon equipped. And make Fred equip the bronze sword, so that Fred will face less hit rate from the Barbarian on the right, and also will not kill the Myrmidon with his counterattack, which means that we'll save that kill for Crom.
Time to tip the scales.
Now, Robin hits this Barbarian again, earning a healthy 15 XP. So that's basically an entire kill on a normal character just for fighting this guy twice. Thank you, veteran. And then Fred comes over here, switches to Crom. Crom takes the both the rapier and the falchion back, not the bronze sword. And then he kills with the rapier, which has higher hit than the falchion. And Crom should be able to kill both of the melee enemies who are approaching on the counterattack as well. Could just unequip after trading. That's also true, Poochie. We'll do that too. Just kind of quicker to trade them away. But I guess it's faster on this following turn to just re-equip the rapier. So when I last did this, the reason I needed the magic asset on Robin was because I was trying to give this kill to him. And for that, I needed...
Are you ready?
I needed him to have enough damage to kill this mage after Fred attacked with the bronze sword. But we actually don't have enough power to do that. It's 6 damage here. And 16 here, but the mage has 23 HP. So we're giving up on that. We're just having Fred kill with the Silver Lance. This also means that if the mage doesn't have Vantage Plus, then Fred doesn't take damage here, which is nice. Okay, and we're gonna spend a few turns healing the party up and setting things up again.
Now. As one.
Crom's dropping Robin into the water here because we're going to use Robin's water walking to pull the mage to the right while we pull all the other melee enemies to the south so we can split them. We'll take a few more turns, so we'll just continue healing everyone back to full. Gives his swords away again, or I guess just unequips. And everyone stays put. Now we're done. Wait one more time, and now we're ready. So we're going to put Crom just outside of enemy range with no weapon equipped, so he supports Fred, who
My steel is yours.
sits here with his Silver Lance equipped. That way he can one-shot this Myrmidon as well. And then to pull the mage, we have Lissa pair up with Robin to give him a bit more luck and res.
Do it.
Then he walks up the water. Here. Now Fred kills the next Myrmidon. Very helpful. And Crom switches his weapon once again, so he uses the bronze sword once more, unequips, and then pairs up with Fred, while Robin runs
Time
away,
to tip the scales.
dropping Lissa back onto dry land. So on this turn, because we've healed Crom back to full, and we've made sure that we don't have 2 instances of Luna Plus on these barbarians, Crom is able to tank these guys on enemy phase and kill them both, just like he did on the second turn. So for that, Fred goes south 1 and east 3, switches, Crom equips the rapier, which gives him perfect accuracy, and he waits. Robin waits right next to him, and Lissa heals Robin from over here. Could keep Crom equipped for free dual guard XP. Well, I don't want him dual striking. I guess it could. He won't take the kill from himself with that, will he? He won't have enough strength for it? Maybe you're right. But I was trying to do it consistently. Oh, and the one thing I haven't mentioned, I did put this in the description, but I'm once again using Mama 10's reduced deterministic growth patch, which is not quite the same thing as the way the average growth patch works in Fates, but it's a similar concept. Like you're earning your growth percentage as points towards the next stat, and that it rounds upwards at 0.5. But the version of the patch I'm using gives everyone only 80% credit for all the fractional part of all their growths. So if someone has, say, a 65% chance of growing a stat, that'll be reduced to 52, which actually still will result in them gaining a stat on their first level. But if it was 60%, that gets reduced to 48, which does not result in a stat growth on their first level. If their growth rate is over 100, like Fred's HP growth, I think it's 110, it only affects the fractional part, so it's instead of 110, it's 108%. Fred is still guaranteed to get at least 1 HP point on every level. 100% consistent strats to try to avoid dual striking as much as possible. Yeah, I don't think that's the correct way to play. Like I said, what I'm doing here is not like the exact correct approach for actually playing through the game. It's just like, if I'm trying to build a strategy, what am I working with, and what am I trying to make consistent? And no, the game is not designed with consistency as a core pillar at all, Seth. Awakening combat is very chaotic, and you're really better off embracing that. You will be far more powerful, and because there's so much chaos that can happen, it's fairly consistent that something good will happen to you if you just embrace all the sources that and give you random stuff. Anyhow,
Now I'm
continuing
angry.
here, we want to set up a kill on this mage fairly carefully. This one doesn't have Vantage Plus, so that makes it a little bit easier, but I'm going to play as if he did. So once again, we'll be backing off and making sure everyone's healthy if they have to attack him. So Crom goes his maximum movement distance down here. He's going to take the bronze sword for himself. We actually want to reduce his damage a little bit, and then he uses the vulnerary. Alyssa comes here, she takes Frederick, and then she heals all the way back to full.
Let's do it.
Robin goes to Alyssa's right side. Takes Fred and switches, and then Fred drops him. So we use the vulnerary here because we basically needed to heal 3 times over the last turn and this turn, and we only have 2 opportunities to use Alyssa, so and we were out of real estate to run away from here, so it's not like we could back off any further. So that means we've got to invest 1 of our limited resources. I think that's fine. Now, Crom pairs up with Lissa, interestingly, and she goes to the south side of the mage, then switches, and then Crom attacks with the bronze sword, which will never kill. If the mage has focus, Crom will actually face an 11% crit chance, or 12% if he didn't gain luck. Which is kind of scary, but that's the deal with the Elthunder Mage. Sorry. Can you negate crit by moving Fred up? No, you need to surround with 2 supporting partners, and we don't have time to do that here because we need other people to do other things. Now, Fred pulls Alyssa, switches. She takes the bronze sword from Crom, and then she heals Robin back to full. So, even if this mage has some really horrific skill combination like the first mage did, Vantage, Luna plus, Magic plus 2, Robin will be able to survive because he's at full HP. And now Robin takes Fred. He trades to get the bronze sword and also the vulnerary, and then he uses the sword for the kill. So now we've eliminated every enemy on the map other than the boss. Notably, Robin has not hit level 2 yet, which is a little bit of a problem because with our defense flaw, he gets 1-rounded at 2 range. Because the boss has 12 speed. Robin only has 7 with Fred's para. So Fred could improve his defenses and get him to 9 defense with the Thunder equipped. The boss has 22 attack, so that's 13 damage times 2, which kills. So you can't use Fred's pair up unless you gain speed. But you can get more speed if you use Crom's pair up bonus instead. However, Crom doesn't give any defense, so Robin would just be on his base 5. And the boss has again 22 attack against Robin's 5 defense. And if it's not a problem if he doesn't roll Luna Plus, but if he does, like ours did, then Robin also dies in 1 hit to that. So how do you mitigate that? Well, you have to attack at melee range with the bronze sword, which cuts the boss's attack bonus from his axe rank by 1, and then Robin does survive. But then you face a crit chance because he has his gamble, unfortunately. So yeah, that's like the one like genuine problem with defense as a flaw is you can't use Fred's pair up, and you can't also rely on Crom's pair up at range. You need 1 more point of survivability. But we will level up on our first attack against the boss. We just have to like do it once. Okay. We do need to approach the boss, so let's do that. We are going to get both Prom and Robin involved in fighting the boss, so they both need to be healthy again.
We're not done yet.
Someone in chat mentioned this a few minutes ago, because they were asking about the sparkly tiles on the maps, and they said what they like to do is put Frederick on them for the chance of getting extra experience. I completely agree with that. I think the best thing you could do with Fred right now, while everyone else is running around getting healed, is go pick these up with Fred solo. Because if he happens to roll experience bonuses, I think they can be anywhere from like 15 to 30 or so. That's a huge amount of experience for him, and accelerating his first few levels is really, really helpful. However, once again, I'm not doing that for consistency's sake, so we won't be enjoying bonus experience on Fred, unfortunately. Okay. So Crom and Robin are both back at full HP. We don't need to worry about Fred's hit points. So we'll have here is so we'll just wait outside the boss's range. Crom unequips. And he pairs up with Robin. So Robin has 5 defense. Luna Plus will make the enemy deal 2 extra damage. So he's got 16 displayed, which means he'll actually hit for 18. And as you can see, we can't totally negate the enemy crit chance. Although Crom does give at least a nice luck bonus, and we've got our luck boon that's giving us 4 dodge as well, so it's not as bad as it could be. And without a luck boon, we'd be facing a 7% crit chance. But we do have to survive this one round. And then what we're hoping for is we gain any of HP or speed or defense. Any of those will make it so that we can start fighting the boss at 2 range instead. Okay, I think that's everything. It's got its bronze sword equipped. Yeah, right here. Oh, we live on 1, we level up, and we are in fact guaranteed an HP growth, which is good enough. Again, that's because of the patch, it's not because Robin is actually guaranteed to grow HP on every level. So with that, now if we heal Robin all the way back to full, he'll take 19 from the boss, but he has 20 HP, so he'll be fine. We just have to use more of our heal staff on it. So because he gained something other than speed, we'll keep Prom paired with Robin, but if he had gained speed, what we would do now is pass Prom off to Fred, and then have Fred switch and Prom pass Fred back to Robin, so that Fred would be Robin's new para partner. And if Robin had managed to dodge, we could actually just do this on this tile here and just sit there with Thunder equipped, but we do have to get out of range and then heal him up. So we're keeping Crom because we still need the speed. Go ahead and equip Thunder right now. And heal him back up. Now he's back at full. He stands here with Thunder equipped this time. We still have Crom unequipped, but now we can fight the boss once again at range. This time, because we have 3 units supporting us, 2 adjacent and 1 paired up with Robin, we get the 3rd tier support bonus, which includes a... Is it plus 10 dodge? I think it's plus 10. So it completely negates the enemy's crit chance. You can't... The boss cannot crit you while Robin is standing here. Deef won't help, will it? Pucci, you might actually be right about that, now that I think about it. Yeah, I guess having 6 defense still wouldn't help you. You're right. Unless that gets you to a survivability threshold with Fred. You'd be at 10. No, actually, you're right. So, yeah, the defense would not help. Interesting. Okay, so you need HP or speed. Okay, good to know. Okay. So the boss has Hawkeye and Luna Plus, which is annoying because we've had no chance to dodge him, but it does mean he doesn't have Vantage Plus, which means we're able to finish him off on player phase, much more conveniently. So this round we're going to have Crom float again, which this is another one of those things that may not be the absolute best. Well, no, I think we're fine here. So take that back. What we're trying to do is set up a kill that we can do in just one turn, executed from this position. He doesn't have Vantage Plus, so we're allowed to do it on player phase. We don't have to wait for enemy phase action, which is somewhat helpful here. So Fred goes above Robin, takes Crom. Wait, actually, Fred unequips first. Takes Crom. Switches. Crom trades with Robin. Crom takes the Bronze Sword. And then because the boss does not have Vantage Plus, we're able to just go ahead and hit him directly with the Bronze Sword. This is kind of scary. 8% crit again. There's not much we can do to mitigate that at this point. But we are trying to avoid burning all of our vulnerable uses. And it turns out, hey, Fred came up with a clutch dual guard anyway. So next, we use Lissa to pass around both the Bronze Sword and the and Frederick. So take the Bronze Sword, go Frederick. Wait. We don't need to spend our heal. And Robin comes up here, takes Fred, takes the Bronze Sword, and goes for the kill. That leaves us at 2.99 for our level. We will reach level 3 with any experience in the next chapter. As Robin says, that's the end of that. So I think this is a pretty cool strategy. Again, if you want to be more conservative about it, or if you want to actually earn a lot more experience on Robin or potentially even Crom, you can use the water trick on either section. You can go to the right side to use it on the first wave, or the northeast to use it against the second wave. That will produce better results. You won't have to worry about things like, does Robin hit the survivability benchmarks against the boss as much? So I think it's a good idea, but again, I'm trying to use a strategy that doesn't completely depend on using the water trick and spending like 50, 60 turns thinking stuff with the Thunder Tome. Well, you can't do that because there's not enough uses for the Thunder Tome, but it's a lot of work. Anyway, I'm actually curious of the turn count. Should be like 22, 21. I guess I skipped the thing that would show us. Oh well. So, moving on. The main event here is what happens in Chapter 2. For that, I'm going to load another save state and talk about the things we're looking for in a setup here. Once again, this isn't perfect, but it's actually surprisingly resilient to enemy skill combinations. There are remarkably few combos that will just outright defeat you 100% of the time. There's a few that will be troublesome or that may require you to dodge things. And there's at least one that's really annoying, which I guess I'll talk about first. It's far, far preferable if the boss, Risen Chief, does not have Luna Plus. Not because that will like ruin anything, but because it will make you burn almost all your vulnerary charges, which is just obnoxious. It's totally manageable. You can survive him just fine. It's just, you will burn your resources on it, and it's really annoying. But the other things that really, truly matter are... It's much better if this fighter does not have Vantage Plus. On this map and Prologue and in Chapter 2, the chance of any enemy not having any one particular skill is exactly 50-50. Because there's 4 skills they can choose from and they get 2 of them. So it's a 50% chance to not have Vantage Plus. If this guy does have Vantage Plus, it's still possible to succeed, especially if one of the enemy movement patterns on turn 1 goes a certain way. But if it goes the other way, it's going to be a lot more dangerous for him to have Vantage Plus, and it's just not nice in general. Vantage Plus and Hawkeye together, really bad. Aside from him, we've got the Hammer Fighter here and the Iron Axe Fighter here. The ideal situation is that neither of them has Luna Plus. If both of them don't have it, that's great. That makes basically everything else free. If one of them does have it, we'll need to prompt to dodge one of them, most likely. So you don't want a situation where one of them has Luna Plus and they both have Hawkeye. And if one of them has Luna Plus and the other one has, or one of them has Luna Plus and one of them has Hawkeye, could be the same person having both. You much prefer that Hawkeye not be on the Hammer God because his hit is worse. He's much more dodgeable. But that's really the only other consideration that makes a huge difference. It's not going to matter if any of the enemies get HP plus 5, which I think actually all the fighters... No, this fighter did roll it. It's not really going to matter if the mercenary gets patience, either one of them. Skill plus 2 on the archer won't make a difference. So it's really just those things. Like, no Luna on either of these is really great. If you see no Luna on either of those fighters and no Vantage Plus on this fighter, you're basically home free. But you might want to also check that you don't have Luna Plus on the Risen Chief, or else he'll cost you some resources. Okay. Oh, and I also should mention, the boss fighter always has HP plus 5. That is not a random roll like it is for the generic fighters. Okay. So, I think that's everything we have to cover. Let's just get into it. Our opening move is going to be having Fred ride over between Robin and Crom here. What he does is he takes the bronze sword back from Robin, and then he pairs up with Crom.
On my mark.
So the departure from KTT strategy for this. We'll see what's different in a second. Crom and Fred move on to this fort. This is a sparkly tile, so if I were trying to be super consistent, I would ideally not hit this, but this is by far the best place to go on turn 1. So we're going to make this move, even though it could give us something randomly. And then for this kill, we are looking for this attack, rather. We are trying not to have Fred take a kill here, which is one reason why we didn't really want Fred to level up in the prologue. We don't want him to gain strength yet, because if he just has his base strength and he takes the bronze sword, he will deal 28 damage to this fighter, which means he will never kill him. And Crom is unequipped, so Crom can't dual strike either. Doesn't really matter if Fred takes that hit or not. In this case, Fred did hit an experience payout, so that's good for him. He'll be a little bit stronger than he might otherwise be at the end of this chapter.
Let's go.
Now, Robin comes down here. He pulls Crom. He also takes back his bronze sword. He'll need that later. And he kills the barbarian using thunder. So this leaves Robin in range of this mercenary. He could take a substantial amount of damage, but he won't take lethal damage even if the mercenary rolls Luna Plus, and he is fast enough with Crom support to not get doubled either. And so on enemy phase, I'm going to move Lissa down all the way down here. On enemy phase, Robin will attack or will fight this mercenary. We do want Robin to hit. He only has 95 hit against enemies, 23 dodge, so it's not great hit chances. It's not, depending on which way this archer moves, it may or may not be critical for Robin to hit that counterattack. So I haven't labbed this out completely, but I think it might be preferable to leave Crom equipped for the counterattack. It just means you'd have to adjust things later if both Robin hits and Crom gets his dual strike. Anyway, what we're going to do is move Lissa all the way down here because that'll put her in a good spot where we can set up a nice pair-up maneuver next turn. And what will happen is all the enemies will run at us. And the key enemy we're looking at is this archer, because he can do one of two things. He can run straight east, end up here, or he can decide to go around the woods here, so one north and then east, stop here. And that totally changes which of the archer or the fighter is going to get to us first, and therefore what we have to do on some of the following turns. Let's see what we get. Okay, he went due east, so we'll show off that
Captain Crom.
That strategy first. I have that second in my notes, so let me go onto that and check on that. So in the scenario where the archer moves east, the net effect on this clear is that it's very minor. It's that Frederick will see one extra round of combat, which will get him 4 more experience, and he will effectively take 1 round away from each of Crom and Virion, so they'll get 10 less each. Other than that, it's basically completely identical, and we still get all the critical support goals. And I'll mention now that one of the supports I'm trying to build in this chapter is the C rank between Frederick and Virion, because they make actually pretty good support partners for each other. And getting to C rank for either of them will mean that they improve their class para bonuses by 1 point each. Virion normally gives 2 strength, 2 skill, 2 defense, so he'll give 3, 3, and 3 if he has a C rank with someone. And Fred gives 3 strength and 3 defense from his class, which will be raised to 4 and 4, and then plus his personal bonuses from having more than 10 strength, skill, speed, and defense. So it's a very useful thing, and it's something that you can build very consistently in this chapter in what I think is a very beautiful way. But our first step here is to tightly control the enemy movement. And to achieve that, we have to do a couple things with our horse units. One is having Sully move into the woods right here with her Bronze Lance equipped, which is on a diagonal from Lissa. And by doing things this way, we can have Robin run to the east past her, transfer Crom over to Sully while Crom is unequipped. And I think if we left Crom equipped and he got a dual strike here, what we'd want to do is actually unequip Sully as well, so that she would take a hit, but she wouldn't counterattack. So we transfer Crom over. He's still unequipped, so only Sully will counter. Then we pair Robin with Lissa, so now these two can run away. And in the meantime, Fred runs over to Virion, trades with him, takes the elixir for himself, and then pairs up. And Virion moves to this spot right here, where he unequips, because we don't want him dual striking and accidentally taking a kill effectively. And he waits right here. So with this setup, this mercenary will always attack Sully from the left, from this woods tile. He could end up here above attacking Robin from the north, but I've loaded states for this many times, and I've never ever seen him attack Sully from the north. And I think even if he did, it wouldn't matter. I'm pretty sure we have... Yeah, because... Yeah, we should be able to get everyone out of the way anyway. It's kind of hard to tell because of the weaknesses of the way terrain is rendered in 3D SFE. But although there's a ton of wood tiles here, there's also there's a clear plains path through the woods, going up like 1, 2, 3, 4. This is plains. This is plains despite having trees on it. So is this. So Sully is able to run away by going up and around that way, maneuvering around. And likewise, Fred is able to ride up that same corridor to escape from the enemies. Okay. And we are on the Archer went east path, so for this case, we just move Lissa all the way up and then to the left as far as she can. And drop Robin upward. The Sully hits her counterattack. We definitely want that. Fred counters that first fighter. He kills the mercenary because Virian's parrot bonus gives him enough strength to kill the mercs, not just the Myrmidons from the previous chapter. And he is out of range of the hammer fighter still. So I think in KTT strat, what he does is have Virian and Fred do the same thing, but on this woods tile. And that almost works just as well, and it would give them a defensive bonus. But when you do that, it's possible for this fighter to attack Fred from the left and not from the south. And that makes it much harder to control where he's going, because now he's like traipsing through the woods. Whereas making him come this way means he will always run up this plains corridor on the right side of the map. Which is very useful. So in this situation where the Archer went straight east, as you can see, it's the fighter who's farther northeast than the Archer. If the Archer had come up and then right, it would be the other way around. The Archer would be basically here and the fighter would be behind him somewhere, like here or here. So this means that this fighter will be able to walk through the woods faster than he would otherwise. In fact, he'll be able to get to this tile here because it's a plains tile. So this is plains, or rather plains, woods, plains. So he's able to walk all the way over here. Plain, woods, plain, rather. So he's able to attack someone we put on this tile at melee range. And we need to account for that. So what happens in this case is Fred rides to that exact space where he'll be in range of both the merc here and the fighter here. And he uses the elixir now. If he's taken very little damage, like he actually has in this particular case, it may not be necessary, especially if very few enemies have Luna Plus. And I think none of the surviving enemies do, so he might not need this. But I'll go ahead and burn this now because I think it's representative of the kind of thing that may happen to you if you don't get favorable skills on all those other enemies that we didn't check. And just for the record, since Fred has a lance equipped, he will face, without Luna Plus factored in, he will face, I believe he's on a plains tile, he's got B rank weapon triangle advantage, he's got 16 defense. The Smirk loses. Does the Merc tink him? I think he does too, somehow. Wait. The Merc has 17 attack without his weapon ranks. And Fred has 16 defense. And B. So, yeah, he should tink. Oh, yeah, it is. But we're not going to have Virian paired up with them. That's right. So he'll take 2 because we'll lose Virian's parrot bonus. So yeah, it's 2. Forgot about that. So it's 2 from the mercenary. It'll be 7, I believe, from the fighter. And then plus 7 more for any instances of Luna Plus that they may have. So like if they both have Luna Plus, then that's 2 plus 7 plus 14, so 23. What we do next is we have Sully ride over here north of Fred, and this is kind of cool, cool bit of tech. To help preserve Fred's Silver Lance, what we can do is give him, and to make it so that he doesn't one round the fighter, that's also important in this scenario, we can give him Sully's Bronze Lance. So she makes him equip that. She also transfers Crom over to Fred in exchange for Virion. She switches. Virion should go ahead and re-equip his bow, and then he drops Sully to the left where she's safe. So what will happen now is neither of these fighters can reach Fred. This mercenary will attack Fred and die. This fighter will attack Fred, but Fred can't one round with the Bronze Lance. So he'll leave him on very low HP. The archer cannot reach us, and the boss is still pretty far away. So our enemy phase should just be Fred killing this guy and then fighting but not killing this fighter. Meanwhile, we just need to have Lissa and Robin do their thing. So we actually do need Sully to be healed up because we're going to use her again to lure the archer later. So we want her to be healthy. And Robin stands in the woods up here. And he'll go ahead and equip the sword. Alright, so Fred kills on the counterattack with Crom support. He levels up because of the bonus experience we got from the fort. Otherwise, he'd be at like 86. Or 90? I think it's 90. Yeah, so normally Fred would be at... Sorry. Fred would be at 90 in the other case. In this scenario, because he's fought this fighter as well, he would be at 94, but we got plus 20 XP from the Sparkling Tile. Okay. So, this brings up a very consistent enemy formation, and I have just perhaps been foiled by the... Interesting. I might have to recheck some stuff. I have played this out a few dozen times and had not had the boss go north yet. I think this might be a consequence of where exactly I positioned Lissa and Robin. So I might have to experiment with that a little bit more. Because I think it does a fairly simple pathfinding thing. And what I've seen so far is he usually goes this way. This is a slight concern. We'll see how this plays out, because it might work anyway. But I think he's going to go up and around, which will be a problem. I'll go ahead and play out what I'm going to do, but I'll probably have to come back to this in a sec and just check some stuff with where we're positioning our units up here. So, yeah. Our move right here is going to have Crom run over and kill this guy on player phase from the woods to the right. So this is why we don't want this particular fighter to have Vantage Plus. We don't want to let him swing at Crom on player phase. If he doesn't have Hawkeye, but he does have Vantage Plus, then his hit rate is... Oh, they both have Vantage Plus. That's kind of annoying. We don't have a fighter without... Rather, they both have Hawkeye. I don't have a fighter without Hawkeye to show this with. I don't want to do the math, but it's like 60% to hit in the woods. Just not great, but sometimes you gotta do it. So, Fred's unequipped. Crom kills that guy. He doesn't take a counterattack. He levels up to 3, which gives him another chance at good stats. And now, our job is to, in this scenario, is to pull this fighter up to Robin while having Sully distract the archer. The archer actually can't hit anyone, but we want to make sure he goes to a very specific location. So Sully just moves right here at the very end of the fighter's range. And she just waits there, unequipped. Virion may as well keep his bow equipped, doesn't make a difference. Robin has the bronze sword. He heals himself the vulnerary because he needs to be... I mean, not in every case. I think this fighter has 21 attack. We have effectively 8 defense, so 13 damage. It may not be strictly necessary for Robin to heal himself here, but it's going to be helpful for him to be healthier later. So he uses the vulnerary, and then Lissa heals him. So Robin gets that kill. He levels up again. To level 4. And Crom gets to fight the hammer guy in the woods. Okay. Yeah, so this is going to break because the boss went around this way, which is not what I was expecting at all. I'm going to reload the save state. This would have been when the arch moved east. I'll quickly run back through everything we needed to do to get back where we were, and then we'll check on can we control the boss's movement a little bit more strictly.
Time to tip the scales.
Transfer, pair up. Take the, oh, I didn't get the. Okay, put the sword back. Virion will pass it off. Pair up. Yeah, on this save state, I forgot to do that. Unequip. Switch. Wait. I'm gonna move Lissa up. And just make a new save state here. I think we... Oh, that's the wrong button. I think we can just keep her a little bit farther northeast, and that might affect the boss's movement, although I don't think it matters on this turn. I think it's the next turn where our positioning might influence him a bit. We have plenty of flexibility with where Lissa and Robin and Sully stand in this setup, so it may just be that we need to be a little bit more conservative about it. Red goes up here. Elixir.
Get it together.
Sully trade, give him the bronze lance. Transfer from, switch. I'll drop Sully to the north this time, and also here in re-equip. Have Lissa heal Sully from above, so she and Sully are a little bit farther away, and we'll put Robin a bit farther off as well. This should be fine. I probably should have made a save state. Check if that consistently gets the boss going that way or not, but we'll hope that that works. I feel like it should. Because it definitely has a longer path going north to get to anyone now. Okay, so that's what we were anticipating here. And now we're in the setup we actually wanted. So we'll do the same things. Red goes over here, unequips, switches, Crom takes the kill. Could go for the rapier as well to get perfect hit rate. However, that also comes with a crit rate that we kind of want to avoid. It's not a huge problem if Crom accidentally crits and kills this hammer fighter, but it would represent a loss of XP. Robin stands here, uses the vulnerary. Sully goes here. Lissa heals Robin. And Virion makes Robin equip the bronze sword. And then pairs up with him. Okay, so we forced the archer to always go to that spot in the woods to shoot Sully from the south. So we've controlled his movement. We've eliminated that left-hand Iron Axe fighter, so now the only regular fighter left is the hammer guy. He will always attack Crom from the south because that's a woods tile, so he'll take less damage there, which makes it easier to run away from him. Now we have some breathing room in the northeast, and we have the means to kite. Oh, interesting. Boss? Boss is still being uncooperative. He came across... Did he run across the fort here instead of going this way? Huh. We might have to work out a totally separate method for handling this. Let's see. Well, we'll experiment. The plan was drop Fred here. That will be in range of the archer. You can see that because he has pass. But Fred has pretty high defense and is in a wood style, so he's not a very attractive target. Meanwhile, Robin comes over here and equips his Thunder Tome. Now we want Virion unequipped. Fight the archer again on enemy phase. Alyssa heals him from the left.
Get it together.
And Sully rides over here. And I think what's going to happen is the boss is going to run northwest, which we don't want. This whole scenario where the archer went due east on turn 1 was my secondary one, and it seems like it does still have some weaknesses to enemy movement. Yeah, we don't want the boss going this way. What we want is for him to also go towards Crom. So let me go back just a moment. And let's brainstorm. The thing is, we definitely want to have someone in the archer's attack range, because otherwise we will be vulnerable to, he'll shoot Crom, and we don't want that. So we need to bait him somewhere. How does that? He levels up. This. There is an alternative in that we could have Sully stand here and make the archer move to this square, which would probably encourage the boss to go northeast and not just straight north across the fort. My only concern with that is that is also in range of the fighter, so we'd have to put Robin a little bit farther south, which may or may not cause problems. We still have a safe space for Lissa to heal on. So yeah, let's try this. Lissa goes, or Sully goes here. Robin stands here. Vulnerary, heal from behind. Raid, give the bronze sword. Go ahead and unequip. This work? Okay, that's definitely where we wanted the boss to go. And I think we still have all the room we need to maneuver the northwest, so it may be that this is just the correct play instead of basically having everyone be one space farther west. Good to know. Make another save state here. Play things out from this spot, but we can still make approximately the same moves.
We're not done yet.
Can't get Fred as far west, which is kind of a problem, but we can still have Robin go up here. Oh, you know what? We don't need to separate Crom from Fred. No actual reason to do that, so... Oh, wrong button. And I made... Hold on, I made such a crap. Okay. Yeah, I don't need to separate Crom. So I think what I can do is just camp here-ish. Yeah, the hammer guy can't reach this wood style. Let's just do that for now. Robin to this spot, equip Thunder. Virion still unequipped. Good. Let's heal from the left. Sully, move away. See how this plays out. Okay. Yeah, the problem with going this way is the boss is still too close. So he runs through... Like, if he's on this tile, he's always going to run this way, because it's, like, there's a bunch of planes that he can run through. So he'll end up here, but now we can't... I mean, maybe this still works, it's just a little bit slower. We have to fight the archer a little bit more. Yeah, I guess that's fine. We can just do this. Okay. Fixing this on the fly, but I think it's doable.
Come on.
We'll separate these guys now. Sully makes Fury and equip his bow. Oh. Trapped Lissa. Oops. Okay. Bad. Ah. 1 second. So what's causing it to crash is I had this hotkey that I habitually press to make it load custom textures again, but I actually turned off custom textures for Awakening. So I'm telling it to do that, and then it's gone. 1 moment.
We're not done yet.
Okay. All right. So we'll put Fred in these woods for now. I think we're just better off going straight west. Thunder, experience unequipped. This may be workable here. But I'd be worried that the boss might decide to go northwest if we don't go to the north end of the map. We'll see. So that's fine. We should have had this go
Got you
west.
covered.
Yeah, he does go west. Okay, so we need to be on the north edge to stop him from doing that.
We're not
All right,
done
back
yet.
to it. We have to be up here. Like this. Wait. Heal.
Got you covered.
Move away. Ooh. Yeah, I think this all just kind of goes wrong if... So in the setup I intended to do with this, the difference is everyone's one space farther west, like up here, and that in those cases the boss never goes this way. But what went wrong earlier was the boss decided to run north across this fort instead of going northeast to get closer to Sully. And I'm not sure if there's a way to really mitigate that. That may just be a random chance thing that will mess this up. It's kind of disappointing. Yeah. Okay, I'm going back to, not there, but setup. I want to run this with the way I had mapped this out, and we'll do a little bit of checking real quick to see just how often the boss doesn't cooperate from here. I'm hoping it's pretty rare, but try to find out. So, Fred, unequip, switch, have prom kill.
My turn.
Have Robin step down here, use the vulnerary. This will heal from the west. Virian trade, make Robin equip the sword. You're up. And once again, we'll put Sully here as bait, and we'll see how often the boss cooperates. Again, what we want from him is to go northeast towards prom, or at least be on the east side of that fort and not go north of it. So that's one in the success column. Frederick can take several hits from the boss. That's true. Like it's totally feasible to use Fred for interference. I just think working out an alternative for that is going to take a little bit more work than what I want to do live on stream. So this is 2 on the success column. As far as I know, the RNG seed for enemy movement advances every frame, at least like during player interaction. So, and this game runs at 60 frames per second, so it's unlikely that just by loading my save state that'll actually like get the exact same RNG value to determine that, unless I just do it frame perfectly. That's 3 times he went northeast. Okay, 1 time he went north. Two times he went north. Ooh, that's a little discouraging. Four to 2. I'm gonna do like 6 more of these. It's not gonna be enough to get a reliable statistical sample. I'm just kind of curious. Five to 2. Six to 2. Six to 3. Wow, we're leveling up a lot. 7 to 3. Seven to 4. It's so annoying when you do like this kind of thing many times and it just never happens to you while you're like planning stuff, and then it happens live. 7 to 5. Okay. That is not super reassuring. I think that means probably we do have to go for the setup where Sully's 1 space to the right and Robin's 1 space farther south. Which might still be a situation we can make things work really well. Because I think what you could do is set up Robin on the previous turn so that the configuration ends up being like Sully here, Lissa here, or maybe here, and Robin here. And then you can take with Virian paired up with him, and then what you can do is use your pair up transfer shenanigans to like move Robin between Virian and Sully, between Lissa and Sully, pass off Virion to one of them, have Robin pair into Sully, and then have them both move really far away from the enemy. So I think the kiting idea still lives. It just has to be done a little bit differently if you want to make it consistent. So I'll have to revisit that. But I want to go with like return to what I intended, because I think the same principles should work, and I want to get through the rest of this method, and then we'll talk about boss. And then we'll talk about the outcomes if the archer moves the other way on turn 1. I think enemy movement is more random in this game than Fates in general. I'm really not sure. I don't think anyone has any concrete idea of exactly how the movement works in either of the games. It might well be the exact same code. I think there are more maps in Awakening where there's a huge mass of enemies who just run at you from across the map. Most enemy groups in Conquest, or Fates in general, but especially Conquest, are triggered by you moving into a certain position, generally within their attack range. Or the maps are just narrower, more choke points, so their movement possibilities are more defined. And that's very untrue of Awakening. Anyway, to show off the general idea that I was going for, in this scenario, what we're trying to do is have everyone run east, but like doing this in a way where we draw the boss and or run west rather. We draw the boss and the other fighter up along the east side of the map, while everyone else runs west with the archer, and then we kite from there.
We can do it.
Again, to make the boss not run northwest at us, we stick to the top side of the map, so we encourage him to go towards Fred instead. Robin here, quick thunder, like that bow. Wait, heal.
Get it together.
Have Sully move here. Okay, so this is what I intended. And the boss's position can be affected by where the hammer guy decides to move. If he runs here or like here, then the boss will be able to move up one space farther. But because the hammer fighter went to this spot, he body blocked the boss fighter, so he's farther behind. It doesn't really make a difference. It slightly affects how we'll have to position it a couple turns from now, but otherwise, same principles apply. We're going to try to split these two from each other later on once we've dealt with the archer. But dealing with the archer is kind of fun. The way we do that is we have Robin go south of Lissa, and he unequips this time, and then switches, and Virion shoots the archer with his bow. Next, Crom pairs into Fred. I guess it doesn't make a difference because we can't go through the archer. So never mind. Sully goes first. She takes Robin, switches to him, and then he kills the archer with his sword. Another chance for Robin to work on his sword rank, which can be very helpful because if you're using at least the 260 starting renown that you always have for playing Lunatic Plus, you will get access to the 11 sword. Maybe not immediately, but you earn it pretty quickly. I don't remember. Robin's like the only person who's actually good at using it, and he needs to get C rank in swords. Swing it. So, to finish this turn out, Fred goes over here, and he drops Crom, and Liz is able to heal Crom here. Now, I did neglect something that's important and worth mentioning in the situations where the boss has Luna Plus. If he did, I would have needed to trade this Vulnerary over to Virion so he'd be able to heal himself and keep up with the boss's damage. Because when Fred is paired up with Virion and the boss has Luna Plus, the boss deals exactly 18 damage. Virion has 19 HP. So he needs to be at full HP every time he fights the boss, basically. Crom is healthy fortuitously, so he doesn't have to heal himself. What he just does is run west, and if he were hurt, he could use his vulnerability to heal himself, so he'd be able to fight the fighter again. But we were able to heal him with Lissa. Red. Oh, okay. So we need to look at where the enemies can go, and we can see that there's this one spot here that's kind of to the south that the boss fighter can hit, which this fighter cannot hit. So we're going to exploit that to help split the enemies here. Virian runs down on his lonesome. He's bow equipped, then Fred pairs up with Lissa. Lissa runs down past Fred, transfers past Virian, transfers Fred to him, and heals him back to full. And now Robin and Sully move away. Okay. This is slightly less than ideal as a setup because this fighter decided to go southwest toward Virian, so he's like not closer to this group over here. But we can still work with this. It'll just take a little bit longer for us to fight every enemy around where we need to go. Again, we can see there's one spot that the boss can hit that the other fighter can't. So we run down there. Have Virian fight him again. So what's happening is we are using Virian to fight the boss 3 times to weaken him. And we also had Virian and Fred fight together twice on turn 2. And they were adjacent while Fred was fighting the mercenary and the fighter on turn 3. So they will earn enough experience point or enough support points to unlock their C support on this map, which is pretty cool. And because we're always using these two for this task of fighting the boss, it just comes about very naturally. We do want to keep our other units out of the boss's range. So do some maneuvering like this in the hope of getting to a situation where we can separate these two at some point. Might take a little bit longer than usual, though. What I'm going to do right now is... So this is basically the cleanup phase. Like, there's no pure turn-by-turn strategy for the rest of this map. It's just make sure that Fred fights the boss 3 times, or Virian fights the boss 3 times, so that he's weakened, and then split them apart so that you can have this squad deal with the hammer fighter, and then eventually circle back and fight the boss. I think... So after this next round of combat, we won't need to heal up Fred anymore. We won't need to heal up Virian anymore. He and Frederick will just be on running away mode. I think the play is to come here. That'll force the boss to go to either this square or this square. We have Lissa heal Virian from the left. And we'll have to run through a woods tile, but we'll put Sully close by. So Lissa can go spend 2, 3, 4, 5. We put Sully here. Then Sully can transport Lissa away while Fred and Virian attempt to run away to the southeast. And looking at this a little bit further, I probably should have had Virian go here, but I think we can still work with this. And we'll see if we can tempt the other fighter to go west. We did not. Okay. Yeah, they're just being really annoying. Might as well multitask. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, we've done one thing. We've now gotten the hammer fighter closer to everyone than the boss fighter. That is progress, because now we can do something productive again on this turn. We can have, for this setup, we want Prom to fight the hammer guy again. So he... I should have had him take the bronze sword as well, but this is fine. I have Crom stand here with the bronze sword and not one of his stronger swords, because if Crom had gained strength on both of his first two levels, then he could potentially have enough attack to kill this fighter with those. Yeah, because he would have, if he'd gained another point of strength, he'd have 14 with the bronze sword, 16 with the rapier. And he also would have dealt one more damage to this fighter when he fought him the first time, so yeah, he would have killed. So using the bronze sword instead ensures that he will never have enough power to kill that guy. So
We're not done yet.
we're going to continue the time-honored tradition of running away. This is by far from the cleanest setup for this this strat, unfortunately. But sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And heal Crom. We need that. The boss does have Vantage Plus, so I don't want to use Robin to make him or anything. Okay. Switch and on here, and we should be able to run away again. And now I should be in a position where I can have Fred lure this guy away again. Just to double check. He doesn't have Luna, so we're not really worried about dying or anything. Where do I want to pull him? I suppose making him go this way is fine. Okay, as for everyone else, we just need to have... Oh, maybe I should have gone farther away. Just need to move everyone else out of his immediate attack range. Yeah, I'll have to fight a little bit further.
As one.
Sick. Alrighty. And I could just have Robin, like, kill him on enemy phase, but I'm trying to spare my heal uses. As you can see, I'm down to 7. Okay. Spark you. You're on the fort, I guess. Nah, make him come this way. Alright, so that should finally be done. We can now kill this guy with Robin. Just for safety's sake, I'll have Sully take the bronze sword so that she does have dual strike chance just in case Robin misses. He doesn't. Robin's at 99 XP once again, and all we have to do now is bring our boss friend all the way back to us. Would I do a full playthrough of this? Maybe someday. No immediate plans, but like the kind of thing I'm doing on this stream is like the kind of stuff I'd want to work out to do. What I think would be a pretty cool, at least, guide to the getting started in Lunatic Plus. Okay, we need to run away from the boss a little bit longer. I forget. Can Melissa survive him if she has Fred on her? 7 defense. So 4. Luna, which she doesn't have. 23. Not necessarily. I mean, she can't because he doesn't have Luna, but otherwise, no. Okie dokie. Oh, okay, that doesn't matter. I forgot you could trigger the sparkly tiles by pairing into someone who was on it. That's funny. All right. Actually, I should have gotten the bronze sword back on Crom again. Same deal here. If he gained an extra point of strength, he would kill. I don't want to give him this kill. Although, again, that's something we might want to revisit later. So I want him to have the bronze sword again. I will accomplish that by having... Oh, Sully has it. Yeah, just make Sully give it up. It's fine. They can have extra support points as a treat. So Crom attacks with a bronze sword. He should live. Urian comes over here. He takes the bronze sword. Crom. And pairs up with Robin. Alyssa just stands next to the destination. Robin comes over here, takes the bronze sword, and kills the boss with it. So there you go. That was the intended method for the one case where the archer moves east. It looks like there are some unaccounted for situations with the boss can move in ways we didn't want, so we'll probably have to revise that. It seems like we might have a workable strategy for setting that up. Where we just have Sully bait the archer the way she did, but one space farther east, but it'll take some refining. I haven't mentioned this, but thank you for the super chats, those of you who've done those. So Sunchips Lava, I do like Sunchips. Thank you for the $9.99. That's really, really awesome. I really appreciate it. And likewise, Christopher, for the extra $1. That's awesome. Thank you. So anyway, so that was the second scenario that I had thought I had completely worked out. Turns out needs a little bit more time in the lab. But the one that I worked on earlier this week, I I'm fairly certain is more consistent. It's a little bit scarier because there's slightly more stuff that you have to achieve with Crom, but it is, as far as I can tell, very, very consistent once you've got the right skills lined up. So let me see if I can load that. That should be here. Nope, that's the east one. Is it this guy? Nope. It must be you. Is not. Where are you? Correct save state. No, okay, this is the right one. Yeah. This is the one where the archer went up and then east. Cool. Alright, so for that scenario, things are... The general plan is basically the same. Like, we're going to pull these enemies down this way and then up this corridor and then around counterclockwise around the map. It's just that because the archer is going to be in front of this fighter, we'll be able to we'll be able to fight him earlier and not have to kite him as long. And that will make for what I think will be a generally more consistent setup. So for that, same deal. Sully moves to this tile southwest of Elise. Robin runs over here. Transfers Crom to Sully. Pairs up with Elise. Fred goes here. Trades with Virion. Takes the elixir. Hands over the bronze sword because I also forgot to make that trade on this save state. Pairs up. Virion steps down, unequipped, switches, and Fred waits there with the Silver Lance. And here, just to make sure that we stay a little bit farther away from the fighter and don't encourage him to run up this direction, we'll only move Lissa to this spot, and that should be good enough. And then let me just double check. Yeah, should be right. Did I say Elise at some point? I had to stop when I was writing notes. A lot of times I would refer to Robin as Corin. And I did write Elise for Lissa at least once as well. Okay, so this is the difference here. Now we got the archer farther northeast than the fighter, and he's the one we have to fight on this enemy phase. So where the other scenario was the one where we had Fred fighting this mercenary and then this fighter, and weakening but not killing the fighter. In this one, Fred's only going to fight the mercenary, and Virion's going to be behind him, already fighting the archer. With that, Fred runs over here, uses the elixir just like before. Sully comes up here and trades the bronze lance to Fred, also just like before. In this scenario, it's not as essential for Robin and Sully to both hit their counterattacks on the mercenary, because Fred's only fighting the mercenary. It's okay if he just uses the silver lance to make up for the missed hit if there was one. But he didn't miss, so we get to use the bronze lance and spare our silver lance some uses anyway. We also transfer Crom over, switch, and now we don't separate, we just have Virion stand here with the iron bow equipped. Lissa moves right above Virion and she heals. Robin just goes here. So Fred levels up. Once again, if he hadn't gotten that 20 extra experience from the Sparkly Tile, he'd be at 1.90 instead of 2.10. Virion fights the Archer with Sully's support, which is important. Virion only has 5 base speed, the Archer has 10, so he needs a speed support to not get doubled, which can actually come from literally anyone other than Lissa. Tactician gives 1, right? I think it's 1. Oh, Tactician gives 2, okay. Sully's Cavalier class gives 1, Crom gives 4, 3, Crom gives 3, and Fred also gives 1. So any pair partner other than Lissa will allow Virion Virian to fight the archer safely, at least once. So just like before, we have Fred come over here, unequip, switch, and have Crom take out this fighter. But now, in this instance, we've got 2 healthy fighters left. And this one will only be able to reach Crom, so he has to fight both of them. And this is why we didn't want them both to have, well, the first hope was that neither of them has Luna Plus, which neither of them do, so Crom will just survive them both with his defense growth he just got. But if they did have Luna Plus, then we'd have to dodge at least one of them. They both have Hawkeye, but neither of them has Luna Plus, so he's fine. And also in this scenario, we have a situation where we want to lure this archer away and not have the archer also attack Crom, because he will die if all 3 of them attack Crom. So just like before, we have to have someone in his range, but this time we can fight him again with Virian. We could also set up in such a way that Robin is the one fighting the archer on enemy phase. What that could potentially go wrong if Robin just has a ton of defense, like if he chose defense boon and we're giving him either Sully or Virian as a para partner to give him 2 extra defense. If he's particularly bulky, the archer might choose to go for Crom, which would be bad. So we sidestep that problem entirely by having Virian be the one to fight the archer again. Virian's on his bases. This is very consistent. So Virian just goes this way, and he waits here. Also heals him from above. And Robin takes the bronze sword back and then waits at his left side. Well, that's a new one. Oh, wow. What's different? Oh, God. Just going through that whole discussion about how we always make the archer go for Virian. Not seen that yet. I think that's still fixable. That was just really weird. I'm shocked that that happened. Okay. Red goes here.
Get it together.
Raid. Make him equip the Bronze Lance. Switch Iron Bow. Wait. Heal.
Here's how it's done.
Robin here. Is the archer seeing a kill because it can see Hawkeye on the 2 fighters? Maybe. I'm pretty sure I checked this, though. This exact save state before I land this? I'm very confused. Okay, we'll go for this again. I'm gonna make a save state here and then just run that back and see if it's just a random deal. But if it isn't, I think we can still solve the problem by having Robin paired up with Virian, so Virian is less bulky. That may work. Also, the Hammer Fighter is going first. Oh, that's different too. So why is the Hammer... This is really odd. So the Hammer Fighter is moving for this fighter, which he usually doesn't, and he's attacking from a non-woods tile for some reason. Maybe it does see both Hawkeyes. Huh.
Must I do everything?
Just do that one more time just to see. Yeah. Weird. Okay, well the other thing I was going to try was make Robin the pair-up partner instead. Equip this time. Pair up. This work? No. I wonder if it's... Maybe it's a problem if the hammer guy has Hawkeye. But I swear, earlier today I ran this strategy with this save state, and this didn't happen. I'm so confused. Huh. What else would be happening here? If he knows... Oh, does he have crit with Zeal? Shouldn't. No. Even if he knows he has Hawkeye, why does he attack from the planes? There's literally no reason to do that. We just saw earlier on the other scenario that this guy did attack Crom from the plains too, or from the woods too. He didn't go around. And he did have Hawkeye then. So maybe it does. So in the other scenario also, well, we didn't have the archer in range, but we did have both of the fighters still in range of Crom at the time, and they both still had Hawkeye. That was the same save state, at least it's like the same map. It's different save states, different steps in that map. But the archer couldn't reach Crom, right? Or could he? No, the archer could. The archer was standing right here. And he, in principle, he could have gone and shot Crom as well. I really don't understand. I really don't know what's causing this. If I run this from maybe an earlier turn, what happens? If I tried using a Dragon Vein, God, I wish there was a Dragon Vein to use on this map. That would be so nice. Okay, we just gone back to the previous turn.
Must I do everything?
Here, heal, take sword, wait. Well, okay, at least it's not something crazy like, not something obviously crazy like they just decide to do something different now. I don't get that. Huh. Well, the only thing I can think of is maybe we have to make sure that the hammer fighter doesn't have Hawkeye. Or at least maybe they both don't. Those two fighters don't both have Hawkeye or something.
Oh,
Okay, let's do a survey here. You've got Luna. You've also got Luna. Neither of you has Hawkeye, though. This might still be survivable. No, actually, you have Hawkeye. You have Vantage Plus as well. That sucks. Okay, try again.
oh,
You have Vantage Plus and Hawkeye. That's really bad. Man, if only everything had gone according to plan,
oh.
and then someone else would discover that these things don't work consistently. You have Vantage Plus. I don't really. And someone else could discover down the line that my consistent strategies aren't consistent. Maybe because the AI sees guaranteed lethal, they want to put the units closer to your northern units? Maybe.
Oh,
You're fine. You don't have Hawkeye. You don't have Hawkeye. Both of you have Luna, which kind of sucks. Do you have Hawkeye? No. Or you don't have Luna. Okay, I think this is workable then. Well, we just have to make Crom dodge later. I hope he does. Okay.
My steel is yours.
Let's run that back. Take the sword. Pair up here. Switch. I wonder what bonus we'll get this time. Unequip. Switch. On sword. We got support. Doesn't matter at all.
let's go.
Transfer. Let's take my bronze sword back early this time. Shoot. Kill. Move Lissa down, and I will make another save state here. Because we are trying to see the archer go up and then north. She did. Hooray. Okay.
Say
Sully.
something.
Time to tip the scales.
Transfer. Here. Drop. Trade. Deep elixir. Pair up. Let me quit. Switch. Wait. Sully hits. Fred hits. Fred kills. Everyone else rushes. Good deal.
Pick a god and
Fred runs
pray.
up here. He took a lot of damage this time. Elixir.
Let's end this.
Sully up. Transfer. Also trade. Give over the bronze lance. Make Fred equip that. Switch. Whip iron bow. Wait. Up here. Heal.
Let's do it.
Wait. Everyone shoots. Those guys rush in. Everything according to plan. All right, let's try again.
Never fear.
Bronze lance. Unequipped. Use falchion. Kill. Crom levels up. We are counting on Crom to dodge something because he can't take 2 Luna plus hits.
Very well.
Urian goes here. Heal. And Robin waits. Okay, and the archer goes first. Yeah, I suspect it is something to do with the AI seeing that the combined fighter attacks and the archer attacks are lethal, and the fighters have high enough hit with it when they have Hawkeye that it just factors that in. Interesting. I played through this with several different configurations, and I would swear I played through it when they both had Hawkeye, but maybe I just didn't get this far in the clear. But now I'm wondering if maybe just one of them has Hawkeye. Will it work? And also Crom did dodge, so we are good to go. Hooray! Alright, so probably what the difference there is, we have to add at least double Hawkeye to the abort list. Oh, and by the way, you take a look at the hit rates. You got 61 on this fighter and 46 on the hammer guy. So the chances of dodging at least one are pretty good. I think it ends up being like 30, no, like 2/3 or like 70%. I don't remember the exact conversion with crew hit and everything. But this should be, we should be home free. Fingers crossed that nothing else weird comes up, but I think we're fine from here. Let's see, where are we? So in this scenario, we do still want to make sure we have consistent enemy movement, and that means kind of like what we did with Sully against the Archer in the other scenario. We want to make sure that the boss always goes to a particular spot, and that spot we're going to bring him to is right here, by leaving someone in his attack range. And that'll actually be Robin in this case. So Robin comes here, he takes Sully from Virion, and he killed the Archer with his bronze sword. So now Robin is in range. We could theoretically trade with him to make him equip the Thunder Tome so that he can counterattack the boss, but I'm not going to do that for two reasons. One is, the boss will be in a woods tile. Robin's hit rate with Thunder is not that good, so it's not super reliable for him to hit the boss there. So it just may not work out. And secondarily, if we do that, I think Robin in the woods tile, this won't actually be lethal enough because our Robin doesn't have enough magic. But if Robin gains enough magic, then our whole like longer term plan with Fred and Virion of having them fight the boss 3 times, if that happens after Robin shoots the boss with Thunder, they can kill him on the 3rd counterattack. We'd be giving the boss kill to Virion, and we don't want to do that. So we're going to leave Robin with the sword equipped. That will also give him a small defensive bonus against the boss. He'll have a better chance to dodge, and it'll take less damage if he does get hit because of weapon triangle. So, with that in mind, Virion just moves 2 spaces to the west, and Lissa steps down to heal Robin. And for his part, Crom runs north up here and then slightly west. And what Crom is going to do is he's going to drop Fred into this woods tile that this fighter can reach. Now, because the fighter has Luna, you can do a fairly substantial amount of damage, but Fred should survive that. We do have an option here to give Fred... let's check this. He doesn't kill with the Bronze Lance, but he does with the Silver Lance. So we could hypothetically let Fred equip the Silver Lance and then drop him here so that he would kill this fighter on the counterattack. And that would be one instance where we could give Fred an extra kill and help him level up. You can see right here he's on level 1.90. If you got a kill, he'd gain 11 XP, he'd get to level 2. And that would at least give him an extra point of HP, if nothing else. Which could prove useful, and there's a good chance he gets something else helpful, like strength or speed or defense. I'm going to avoid that now, but that's definitely something that's in the back of my mind as an option that might be worth going for in a slightly modified version of this clear, if we were to continue on for Chapter 2 and 3 and so on. We're not going to do that, so Fred will just be here unequipped, luring that fighter without actually hitting him. Okay. And here we are. So we guaranteed this fighter will always be here, the boss fighter will always be here, and then this hammer guy could go to this spot or this one or maybe up this way. But this is... now we're in good shape. Also, notice we left a space between Virion and Lissa, which means that Crom can pair up with Fred, and then we can pass Prom and Fred off to either of them, their teammates here. So transfer Prom to Virion, here with Lissa. Virion goes 2 west and 1 south, which will be in range of the boss, who can throw over the woods here, but not this guy. And while he's there, he raids with Crom to take his vulnerary. Then drops Crom to the north. Lissa runs over behind Virion, transfers Fred to him, heals him. So she's not only safe out of enemy range, but she's also going to be able to keep up with Virion. If he runs south to try to lure the boss that way, she'll be able to run south with them, because she doesn't have to go through the woods.
Time to tip the
And
scales.
finally, Robin runs up this way, and he'll go ahead and use his vulnerability to heal himself.
You fiend!
So, just like the other scenario, now we're in our fighting mode. What we're going to do is try to pull the boss fighter down to the south. This is a slightly more favorable arrangement where we're able to make him run through the woods here. We can have Virion come here. Again, if the boss had Luna Plus, we would have to have Virion use his vulnerary. He doesn't, so we don't. This is able to safely heal him. And the boss will be guaranteed to run through the woods and stop either here or here and shoot Virion. Now, these other two fighters, maybe one of them will accompany the boss south, but the other one, at least one of them, we should be able to lure on his own to the west without too much trouble. So
Let's do it.
Robin just runs away and drops Sully, and for his part, Crom comes over, takes Robin's vulnerary. He also uses it to heal. Okay, this is beautiful. We have the Iron Axe fighter, who I will point out is, like, both of these have Luna Plus, which is kind of annoying. But we have this guy isolated, and we should be able to fight him on with one of our swordsmen safely on enemy phase, and then have Robin take the kill. Since he's weaker than the hammer guy in terms of at least raw damage output, it's generally better for Robin to be the one to fight this one than Crom to be the one who has to tank the hammer fighter eventually. Running the numbers real quick. We're getting by the skin of our teeth here. This fighter has 14 displayed damage and Luna Plus, which will give him 3 extra against Robin. So he will kill Robin if we don't support him. However, if we give Sully pair up to Robin, that'll raise his defense by 2. Now Luna will cut that by 1, but even 1 point is enough. So it'll be 17 HP, 8 defense, cut down to 4, 17 HP. 17 HP, 4 defense is 21 total bulk, and this fighter will lose 1 attack from his weapon rank. He's just got 13 strength and 7 might. So that's 20 against Robin's 21 bulk. He'll be fine. Just barely. And to accomplish that while staying slightly closer to the enemy than we might otherwise, Robin stands here. We could also use the woods to our advantage as an extra point in defense if we had to. It's just in a scenario where both fighters were coming at us, that might not be feasible. So the method that seems to work more often, if both fighters are running west at us right now, is to have Robin stand here. Sully pair up. And in this instance, we'll just have Crom run away. Okay. Meanwhile, we continue pulling the boss to the south by running into these woods. This will be the last time Virion has to fight. Alyssa heals him. We get a dual guard, so thank you, Sully. And now we're in a situation where, first off, we want to finish off this fighter. We want to give the kill to Robin, so he just steps down and attacks with the Thunder Tome. Matter of fact, there's no place we could move where we could potentially bait the Hammer Fighter on his own. His range is completely covered by his boss. But what we can do is try to leave some of our allied units close to his range to tempt him to come north. So, try to make that happen. We'll have Robin step down, do that thing where we give Sully the sword just to help with the dual strike chance. Robin gets the kill. This time, will now take the bronze sword, also take Sully and drop her here. So this may encourage the Hammer Fighter to come after Sully. And in the meantime, we will move Brad and Virion to the southwest. Or no, actually, let's check something. Fred takes 8 with a lance equipped, which means he takes 7 with nothing equipped. We can... So even though he did get badly wounded by that other Iron Axe fighter with Luna, we can't put him on the fort because the hammer guy is at range. That. We might have to heal Fred one more time. Right? On the woods. Yeah, Fred takes lethal. Oh, KT. Kuroi says the enemies are able to see one move ahead for lethal. Huh. I wonder why the Hawkeye situation matters then, because it seems like it does. And the enemy hit rates were not that low. They were in the 40s at worst. Okay. So if Fred were still very healthy, then the very easy solution here would be to just drop him at this spot, I think. And then what I'm going to do is burn another vulnerary, which is kind of disappointing, but probably the soundest move to make. Yeah. And then Lissa will just run away. I'm doing that instead of having Lissa heal, partly because I don't... Like, Lissa can't really go with them to the east to really split the enemies up, and I also don't want to spend more of Lissa's healing staff uses if I can avoid it. So this worked really nicely, though. We've got... Fred's able to run away now. Very cleanly. Over with our team up this way, we are able to have Crom. Oh, right. Okay. This... I wonder. Maybe I should have had the team strung out a little bit to the west instead of to the east, because there maybe would have been a situation where I could have gotten Rom all the way down here and then had Lissa heal him instead of having to wait an extra turn. And I guarantee that I will be able to have Lissa reach Crom and heal him before next turn. Basically, I'm checking, can I have Lissa get back to Crom and not make him use the other vulnerary? I think the answer is probably no. I mean, there are ways I could make it work, like having Sully over here and Crom here and Robin here, and then no matter where the fighter goes, I'm able to run away with everyone. I think, probably. Yeah, that should work. Yes. I would be able to pair like one of these guys into the other and either run straight south or straight east and get away. And then kite this guy for a while until I'm able to get this up there, but I don't really want to do that. If he didn't have Luna Plus, we could just fight him with Sully pair up. But he does. Crom has 8 defense. He'll get to 10 with Sully. So that's like, that would save him 1 extra damage. But yeah, he needs to be at full HP. So I think there's basically nothing for it but to have Crom come over. Well, it'll be more convenient if I do it this way. So they pair up into Crom. Crom stand just like over here, I suppose. Quick Bronzesword and Vulnerary. Robin behind him. Okay. And then he dodges anyway. Figures. Alright. Another kill for Robin. Gonna do the exact same thing with the Bronzesword. Switch. Go. You have Vantage Plus. Robin can survive you, so I don't have to heal Robin anymore. And Crom's healthy. So I get to save some more heal uses on Lissa. Hooray. I don't need to heal anyone for the rest of the mission. Just bring over the Red and Veering as much as I can. Alright, this should be fairly straightforward from here. Just tiny bit more setup. Get the Bronzesword. All right. So just like last time, we go for our kill by having Crom hit with the Bronzesword first. Fred will be able to reach Robin, by the way. It's right there. Right here. Fred has the Vulnerary now, right? It's slightly inconvenient. I should have traded, I suppose. Okay. I will get the Bronzesword back from Crom. Wait, move Sully down. Robin trades, gets the Bronzesword. And there's our kill. Okay, so there we are. Same outcome as the other strat. We've got Robin up to level 5.71. And in this case, Fred has 4 less experience. He's on 1.90, but Crom should be, I mean, I can show the support page after this. We'll just look at it. As far as I can tell, the enemy movement with the archer moving north is extremely consistent. Although it turns out that the fighter attack patterns are maybe not if they have Hawkeye. So Kraven's on 3.39. With the other strat, he was at 3.29. Virion is at 2.5. He would be at 2.4 if with the other strat with the archer moving due east. And Fred's at 1.90, whereas he would have been at 1.94 with the other strat. Robin's exact same sword and tome experience too, by the way. Sully used her lance once. Lissa had as few as 7 heals in the last clear. Part of the healing expenditure has been because I was a little bit more generous with healing than I necessarily had to be in some instances in the prologue in chapter 1. So I think what you should do is definitely like look out for cases where you can not use a heal, just to ensure that you have some heal uses available for chapter 2 and the beginning of chapter 3. You probably can make chapter 2 work with a 7 to 10 heals. I mean, it's going to be tough, but I feel like it's workable. Then the beginning of chapter 3 is going to be a little bit tricky until you get access to the other heal staff that drops there. That's kind of an unknown for me. I don't know if adjustments have to be made to make sure that Lissa doesn't burn as much of her heal staff. Be worth knowing. But anyway, importantly, we've also got the supports between Crom and Robin, and Crom and Frederick, and Virion and Frederick. So at least we have those 3 C supports. I have not done an extensive tally of the support point gains to check that female Robin always gets the Crom support here. For male Robin and Crom, it only takes 3 support points, but I believe for female Robin and Crom, it takes 4. That might be something I have to revisit just in case that there's a difference there. But I think these are the most critical supports to get. Like, you definitely want multiple Crom supports if at all possible, because his dual strike rate goes up very nicely when you get more supports. And both of these characters can now give him a lot more extra stats. And the Fred Virion C support, as I discussed earlier, is also very useful for both of them. So that's really the end of what I wanted to showcase today. It turns out, unfortunately, things didn't go perfectly, and I think we have a better understanding of the strategy with the archer going north. I think it's just a case where we have to look out for Hawkeye and at least maybe it's just the maybe it's just the hammer fighter might be a problem for him. Makes him go earlier and then mess up the movement sequence or something. So that I did not know. And with the other situation, with the archer going due east, it looks like we'll have to change the way we bait the archer north a little bit more. Or north a little bit so that we draw him a little bit further east and don't get the boss to go north or northwest on us. So as KTT is saying, if the AI can see ahead 2 actions for a kill, and perhaps having Hawkeye on the hammer guy is making him decide to go early for some reason, I guess maybe the AI factors in expected damage for something like movement priority, then when he hits, then yeah, they would definitely see kill from there. Whereas if it's the other fighter who goes first, the archer still doesn't see. Yeah. And otherwise, it seems like it's the archer who goes first, and he doesn't see lethal with anyone else, so he goes for Virion. Is the support point system in Awakening similar to, or the same as Fates? It is essentially the same. I think there's like maybe 1 or 2 minor differences in which actions give you which amount of support points, but they might all be equal. However, the thresholds for getting different support ranks are a little bit different. In Fates, there's only 2 support growth patterns. There's the fast support and the regular supports, where for fast, it's 2, 3, 4... Yeah, it's 2, 3, 4, 5 for each rank in order. For slow, it's 3, 4, 4, 5. In Awakening, there's a broader range where I think the first support can vary from like 2 to 4 points required. there's like fast, medium, and slow supports effectively. And I think there's some like larger gaps, like maybe 5 or 6 for some of the higher ranks for slow supports as well. So, yeah, so Chad, if any of you have any questions, I wasn't paying a lot of attention to you guys because I was trying to commentate and like do actions carefully for this clear. So I'm gonna try to quickly scroll through some recent messages just to see if there's anything interesting to respond to. But other than that, if you have any questions, feel free to ask, or like any suggestions or things, I would love to hear that. And I still don't understand why the hammer fighter would choose to attack Crom from the north and not from the woods. In any instance. That just seems really weird. Did you continue the stream tomorrow? Not with this. Like I mentioned at the start of the stream, my plan is not to take this save file forward as a full run. I will probably tinker with it. So I want to revisit some of the stuff we saw today and see if I can patch up some of the holes, especially with the Archer going due east version. Because I think there's some promising options there, but it seems like my original setup doesn't quite work consistently. But then beyond that, I would, on my own time, I'll probably like lab out what happens in chapter 2 and beginning of chapter 3, just to check things like, should I give more kills to Frederick? Which might actually make some of this stuff in the first 2 maps easier. Or do I need to change things to guarantee that Crom and Robin get their C support on time? Or do I need to adjust some stuff so that Lissa doesn't have to heal quite so much, so I can preserve her heal staff a little bit longer? That kind of thing. One nice thing about this method of doing things and not using the water trick is I have absolutely no concerns about thunder durability. I still have 36 uses here. So a lot of times if you're just like using the water trick extensively and you're killing everything with Robin, you will run low on thunder uses before Muriel joins and brings a fire tome. But yeah, that's not a problem at all here. And we have gotten some extra sword experience on Robin, which, as I mentioned, can also be helpful. Until what chapter do you feel like doing the stream? Just up until like chapter 8? I think there's a couple different milestones for what you can plan for as a real turn-by-turn thing versus what would be like, here's general principles and methodology for building certain units who are useful. Like, on Lunatic Plus, through chapter 2, you can't roll Pavis Plus or Aegis Plus or Counter. And those are all effectively like defensive skills in the enemy, in the sense that they make you alter the way you deal damage to the enemies and potentially like limit your opportunities to deal damage. So, whereas all the skills that show up before then, which are Pass, Hawkeye, Luna Plus, and Vantage Plus, are about helping the enemies deal damage or maneuver against you. So, if you can work out a strategy that accounts for the extra damage that enemies might do when they have Vantage Plus and Luna Plus, then it doesn't really matter what skills they actually roll. You've already like covered your bases in terms of what the enemies could possibly do. So you can have a very, very concrete plan for what to do in Prologue in Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. Once the enemies start getting those durability skills, you really do have to improvise a lot more. It's just inevitable. And then the things that matter are not really like doing the exact sequence of moves to kill the enemies in a certain way. It's more like making sure that you take advantage of certain choke points and stuff so you have opportunities to feed characters safely, and setting up the ability to overcome those defensive skills with things like maybe leveling up Crom enough so that his falchion can two-shot the enemy wyverns in chapter 5, and he has enough speed to double them, which like dramatically improves his chances of killing them. Or so that means he has to level up a few times probably to get those stats. Or forging an iron bow for Virion, so that when a wyvern rider has Pavis Plus, you can use Aegis Plus, or you can use a bow to, like an Aegis targeting weapon, to shoot him down instead. Or making sure that you build supports between someone like Fred and Sumiya, so that, and level each of them up a little bit, so that they can mutually give each other the stats they want, so that they can double every enemy, and they can one round fairly consistently with a combination of crits and dual strikes and everything. So I think the answer is like, well, my goal for like working out something like a turn-by-turn clear is really just through chapter 2 and like the beginning of chapter 3-ish. But luckily for me, other people worked really, really hard on chapter 2 and chapter 3 a long time ago, so I'm not as concerned about them. Chapter 1 was the big hurdle that I think no one had really worked out, at least not without a really strong Robin. And I think what I've put together today is a very big stride in that direction. It's not perfect. We've seen some ways that things can go wrong, so there's some stuff that I didn't know about that we have to account for, and some adjustments that have to be made to limit the random enemy movement a little bit more, it seems like. But I'm very happy with where we are. I think this is a very strong setup that can help account for a lot of situations in chapter 1. Even if it's not, it's a little bit less reliable than I first hoped. I think it's a very strong base to build off of. So, long-winded way of saying, I think I would love to get something resembling a turn-by-turn strategy worked out through chapter 2, and then I would love to build on it a little bit more to show, okay, how do you approach chapter 3, Prologue 1, chapter 4, chapter 5, and so on, through about chapter 8, where you get the first reclassing seals, other than the renowned second seal. And then who knows from there. It's been I think it'd be really cool to show off things like, how do you get Sumiya to Gale Force if you're doing Crom and Sumiya marriage by the end of chapter 13, or like, is that a realistic prospect? How badly does that hurt your training for the other units? That kind of thing. And there's some other stuff I want to explore. I've been picking around the idea of like dragging Donald to success as an example of how like you can with proper planning and support, you can set up situations where even on Lunatic Plus, you can make the worst unit in the game like at least get by. I've had ideas in that respect, but I think it's been a long-term project and very much a secondary concern that I come back to once every few months. But I do hope to build on this in the future. Kirby's celebrating Sully install saw. It is an interesting thing, and one of the things I would plan to do in chapter 2 is basically, depending on your Robin's gender, you just match Robin with the same gender Cavalier, and you have them build support, because they will be 100% guaranteed to unlock their C support together in chapter 2 if you play your cards right. It takes 3 points for the same gender Cav, but 4 for the opposite gender one. So you can't get 4 in one map. So that means you can set up a C supporting Cavalier for Robin in time for chapter 3, which is very helpful. Having Sumiya at Crom at S in like 5 maps instead of 7 was very funny. Thing is, Kirby Master, you are morally obligated to not read the S support, because the marriage scene at the end of chapter 11 is way better than the S support scene. So I'm sorry, that's not allowed. And there are some topics I want to get to with upcoming chapters at someday. I know, like, there's been some contentious arguments in the community over the last year or two or three about things like, is it worth training Sumiya, or is Vake better than Robin, or like that kind of stuff. I'm still of the opinion that Robin is better than Vake and is definitely worth training over him. So like I don't plan to embrace Vake training, but I do also want to keep that in mind. And I certainly think if I go through things like training Donald, you could think of like just plugging anyone in there and you will get way better returns way faster for putting Vake in that slot than Donald. You go into effective S support pairings for characters in a run like this? Probably talk about some. I don't think it's realistic in a Lunatic Plus run to go for like full recruitment where you actually care about the inheritance for all the kids. And I say not realistic. I have done that before. Ages ago on my own time, I did a run on Lunatic Plus where I also did like all my Apotheosis pairings and really stupid things like getting Gale Force on Olivia and Maribel and Lissa to pass them down to their sons. I do not recommend that. It's a terrible idea. It makes the game so much harder, but you could do it. I just don't think it's ever a good idea. But there's some interesting things to talk about with like the way the early game in Awakening is structured and the way the stat benchmarks line up and how that means, for example, is very, very valuable to achieve like 16 or 17 speed. That's the threshold you need to double most enemies, and the enemies don't really get a lot faster for a really long time. They kind of plateau around like 10 to 12 speed for a surprising stretch of the early game. So there are considerations like that that inform things like, is it worth bringing Sumiya along to get her supports with people? For example. And I think the answer is yes, in many, many cases. You can even get female Robin Sully support in Chapter 1. Yes, that is true. That might even... I haven't done the calcs. I haven't like checked and counted up exactly how many combats they do, but that might be something that's feasible to engineer with the clear I just did. Maybe you have to modify a few things. Although it seems more feasible with the scenario where the archer goes north and then east first, because at least the way I've done it so far, Robin does more combat with Sully in that scenario, whereas the other one, he does a little bit less combat with Sully and a little bit more with Birion. Kirby Master says, auto-leveled Fates kids are convenient, but their ceiling is notably less higher than Awakening kids. That's very true. The Awakening kids are basically all very, very good Ests. They're all going to be under-leveled when you recruit them, but if you've used their parents fairly extensively, they're going to have really good bases for their level, and they will level up very quickly. And like all Awakening units, they have very good growths. So they like basically inherit the bases of someone who's maybe like 10 levels higher, but level up way faster, so they can snowball really quickly. But they do suck when they join, whereas the Fates ones are, because they got auto-leveled, are way more usable when they join up, but they don't. In the main game, there's not a lot that they do that you can't just do with, you know, first-gen units and rescue strats and all that stuff. People just pretending that every unit in this game is only as good as their ceiling is one of the more frustrating points of discussion around this game. Yeah, I think I agree with that. Now I grew up in my Fire Emblem infancy in the Serenus Forest forums, basically exclusively talking about and reading about Apotheosis optimization. So I was one of those people who only viewed the game through like, how do I make sure that I make units that will do well in Apotheosis for a long time. I did get into Lunatic Plus, but like I said, like my last Lunatic Plus clear I did ages ago was about building an Apotheosis team in Lunatic Plus, which was burdensome in the main game. And yeah, it's definitely true that the ceiling for these characters is not nearly as important as how they start and how much they, how long it takes to get them going. Which is one of the things that's convinced me that it is worthwhile to give some experience to Crom. Like I discussed, he has noticeably better bases on basically every physical stat compared to Robin. He's that much closer to hitting those key stat benchmarks at like getting 10 in strength and speed and defense, which dramatically improves his parrot bonuses and gets him to good stat thresholds. Will work on early game combat. And you know, he's a great dual striker, he's a great support unit. He can exploit some of the random mechanics in Awakening really well, and I think it helps a lot if he's actually fairly strong when you get started. Yeah, Kirby, you also bring up a good point. One of the big differences in the skill systems between Awakening and Fates is that Fates skills are basically all about changing hard stats. How much damage, well, not technically the hard stats themselves, but how much damage do you deal or how much damage do you take? Whereas their Awakening counterparts are pretty much all about hit and avoid, and sometimes like crit and dodge. So in Awakening, this skill, Outdoor Fighter, gives you +10 hit, +10 avoid when outdoors. In Fates, the counterpart is Elbow Room, and that's +3 damage that you deal on terrain without an effect, which just makes it way easier to hit concrete kill thresholds than Outdoor Fighter could ever hope to help you with. You also don't get all the tonics immediately. Those are unlocked piecemeal at different shops. You get strength and speed, or strength and defense pretty quickly, but speed takes a long time to come online. So that makes it more important to train people and just get speed naturally, or build support ranks on units who give good speed bonuses to increase those speed bonuses. Don't train Cordelia if you don't want to face disappointment with doubling promoted enemies. Going with the double Pegasus strat is something that I've been really interested in doing, and it is also something I did on my old Lunatic Plus clear a long time ago, where you go Crom with Sumiya and also train Cordelia as like the second Dark Flyer to go for double Gale Force and get at least 3 kids with Gale Force to go with your 2 trained Dark Flyers. I think it's really cool. I think it's probably the most fun way to play through Lunatic Plus once things come online. It's definitely not the most efficient, but I think it's very cool and interesting. But you're right. So Cordelia kind of lacks in the speed department, so it's often an important consideration. Like, can you give her a speed boosting partner? Fate's enemies on Birthright and some part of Conquest also just have low kill benchmarks. The damage stacking is much more valuable, Claude says. That's also true to an extent. I actually don't think the enemy stats in Awakening are objectively that impressive, except that they have way more HP than Fate's enemies do, which does dramatically change the kill benchmarks for one rounding. Now, you also get way more sources of damage because of dual strikes and all the shenanigans that can happen with them. But just like concretely hitting guaranteed damage thresholds is a bit harder. and you don't have skills that help you. When the new FE comes out, will you stream your first playthrough like you did with Engage? Almost certainly. It'll be another big adventure. I am cautiously optimistic for Fortune's Weave. Because I mean, I don't want to like get all aboard the hype train and like think it's going to be the best game ever. It probably won't be. There's going to be flaws, but I did actually really like the overall setting of Fodlan and Three Houses, and I think it's cool to revisit that, but seemingly in a different era. My guess is it's probably a prequel, just because I think the like the Greco-Roman kind of coding and the architecture and everything evokes a lost past more than it does like a successor state thousands of years later or anything like that. I don't think it's like... I'd be very surprised if we see any Three Houses characters other than Sothis. Oh, and maybe the other Nabateans. But I really don't know. I think a lot of the character designs look cool. I think it's funny that we have basically a vampire guy. I haven't pored over the trailer like a lot of people have. I haven't even watched a lot of the like breakdowns or anything like that. So I'll get into that sometime later. But yeah, I think there's a lot of cool things they could do with the setting. There's some interesting choices that we can tell from the trailer. Durability is back, which, if it's like Three Houses, is basically going to be a big nothing, which is the main reason I've always felt like durability is kind of stupid. Because the way it works in basically every Fire Emblem game is like, it's not enough of a problem that it actually matters. It's just a psychological problem that discourages you from using really useful tools like forging. And in Three Houses, they kind of solve that by making it so that when you forge something and I mean, even if you haven't forged it, but if you have a weapon and it breaks, you could fix it so you don't like lose your forging, which is fine. It makes you get over the FOMO, but at the same time, it makes the whole mechanic kind of pointless. So I'm a little bit skeptical that they're going to do anything interesting with durability again. I wonder how they're going to handle weapon ranks. Are they going to call them skills again and call skills abilities? That'll be interesting to find out. Electric VGC asks, what is the best game ever? My opinion on that has definitely fluctuated a lot. I guess there's a fair argument for Fates from my perspective, but I mean, there's tons of other games that I've really, really enjoyed. I got into strategy gaming with XCOM Enemy Unknown, especially Long War, which is also not a perfect... The Long War mod, which is also not a perfect game, but just like really sucked me in for years. Borderlands 2's got to be up there. I've heard good things about Borderlands 4. I wasn't foolish enough to pre-order it, but I've heard seems to be, other than the performance issues, seems to be more or less a return to form compared to Borderlands 3, which is good to hear. I don't know. I was really into Mass Effect for a long time, but my opinion on the whole series has cooled a little bit. I think partly as I've grown into adulthood and realized that I don't find the social stuff in those games, or indeed in a lot of Western RPGs, or Eastern RPGs for that matter, that fulfilling or interesting anymore. Like, I have more experience in life and with relationships, and I'm like, not that impressed by going to talk to my crewmates 6 times and then, you know, doing the do. And would love to see a true XCOM 3 someday. I would love to too. I've heard that there's been a lot of trouble at Firaxis, which seems like, you know, may not be a good sign for that. haven't played a lot of Fire Emblem games, funnily enough. I don't know if I ever will, to be honest. I was kind of hoping... Like, I've not been one of those people going into all these Nintendo presentations and, like begging for Genealogy remake, but I've always been, like, hopeful to see that, because I think it'd be cool to experience it on a modern system with, like, reimagined a little bit. But who knows? Maybe it'll never happen. What else? Elden Ring has been amazing. I actually do want to get back to streaming that, because I got really far, and then we got into the DLC, for those of you who are watching, several months ago, but I didn't make an announcement about this, I guess, but it's been on sort of a hiatus all summer, along with everything else I've been doing, because I was really busy with like athletics and other hobbies, and was just like didn't have time, basically. But I do actually want to bring back the Elden Ring streams in the next fairly soon and finish that out, because I think it's going to be like maybe 4 or 5 more streams to get it done, unless the DLC final boss really gives me problems, which he might. So yes, Val, we will be returning to the Lands Between relatively soon. I think what's cool about Elden Ring is that, like, my habit in most games is to be a completionist, and Elden Ring has been no different. I haven't really gotten into, like, speed runs or just doing, like, rushing all remembrances or anything. I like to explore and, like, go through the overworld content and fight the generic enemy groups and just, like, play with my builds and really think about the build crafting and stuff like that as part of the experience. But that means it's overwhelming to do a lot of it over and over again. But I think what's really cool for me is, like, I did open it, run it, and play it a few times over the last few weeks, because I was thinking, oh, I want to get back into this, and I don't want to be, like, totally raw, and I'd like to spend some time on some other builds just to see how they go. But what's cool about Elden Ring to me is that, like, you can get really into it for a couple weeks or like a month or two at a time and play through everything, and then just feel like, okay, I've done everything there is to see in this game, and then come back like half a year later and be like, you know what? I want to play in a totally different style and see how that goes. And not everything feels fresh, but a lot of it feels really fresh and new and fun again. There's also, I don't know, I kind of wish I was like back in college or high school and still had what feels like infinite free time to play every video game I can think of. There's a lot of stuff that's fun out there that's just passed me by. Expedition 33, I think that's what it's called, or Clarobscur or whatever. Heard amazing things about, but I don't know if I'll ever get a chance to do. I've had Baldur's Gate 3 installed for ages and have never gotten past character creation, because I've just felt, well, never got past the tutorial. I guess I have gone through character creation, because I just feel like such overwhelming choice paralysis with it that I don't feel like I can commit to anything. There are too many classes and like too many things to decide right at the beginning, and I feel like I have to know what's going on and have a sense of what I'm doing, and I just don't. And also just don't like the controls in that game, which is kind of a hurdle. But I feel like that's just the kind of thing where I just need that activation energy. I need to, at some point, put like 6 hours in and just get into it, and then I'll feel like I'll probably love the game. I just haven't gotten over that hump yet. Well, I was talking about Baldur's Gate 3. Like, I'm just not a tremendous fan of the point and click around the screen to make my characters move around. There's something about it, it just doesn't feel very good to me. which I guess you could argue that's basically it's the same thing in like Fire Emblem, but it's just something viscerally different. I don't know. Have I tried Rogue Trader? Never heard of it. The 40k strategy RPG like Warhammer? Or 40k strategy RPG. I know like 4X. Is it just the existence of a grid system? Well, no. Like, I don't... This isn't like an objective judgment on like the controls in Baldur's Gate 3 or similar games. I just don't like the way it feels. But I'm not a stickler for being on a grid, no. Or a strategy game or an RPG or anything like that. There's other stuff I'd want to do. Once I get through Elden Ring, there is another classic action game that I kind of want to do. I've been thinking about for a long time that I think would be a lot of fun, and I could also finish in like 12 or 15 hours, which is an exciting prospect. Maybe even less than that. Even within FE, game feels an underrated aspect. That's very true. That's one of the things that's annoying about Engage, because it's 30 FPS and there's so much input lag on everything. I think this is also kind of true on Three Houses, but it feels worse to me on Engage. It's just like, it feels so funky. And it makes me really appreciate going back to 3DS FE and everything's 60 FPS and really snappy. Random question, you're really great at talking. Is that natural or do you do anything to be so good? I don't think I'm amazing at talking, but thank you for saying so. It's definitely a skill. I consider myself, like, it's a skill you work on. I don't think it's really a talent. I don't think you got to feel like, oh, I'm not good at public speaking, so I just can't be good at it. I'm a pretty shy, reserved person by nature. But I did go to grad school and learn how to talk to math classes full of like 200 people. I was basically thrown in the deep end. I just had to do it, and I did. And yeah, valuable experience. It was very intimidating, but I'm very thankful for having done it and gotten used to it. And I think that's helped a lot. Maybe one day we will get Hex Grid Fire Emblem. I'm skeptical of that for one fundamental reason. Like, as an idea for a strategy RPG, I know there's some. I mean, I don't like really know of any offhand, but I'm sure there are some SRPGs that have gone with a grid format. But the thing that's tricky about that is, at least SRPGs on the scale of something like Fire Emblem, where it's really about moving individual units and not like groups of units covering multiple tiles at once, is with a square grid, you can have one tile choke points in a very natural way. And the geometry of things works out so that like you can use ranged units like that are standing behind one melee unit. It's just like, if you investigate like how the different dimensions of travel work, just there's a lot of combat situations that are a lot harder to engineer on a hex grid than they are on a square grid. But even though hex makes way more sense in terms of accounting for movement, I think you lose a lot with it when the gameplay is about moving a couple units at a time with respect to each other and controlling choke points or defending your teammates and stuff like that. So you can do things about that. Like, I know there's concepts like zones of control where you can't just, costs more movement to run around an adjacent enemy and stuff like that you can use to mitigate those things, but it's not as simple. And I think one of the great virtues of Fire Emblem is its simplicity. In terms of like, what does movement mean? What do the stats mean? How does damage work? All that stuff is very basic. It all works together really well because it's all basic. Eric Saga is hex grid. Oh, it is. Didn't know that. Sim says ranged units become crazy in hex. It depends how much range you give them, but yes, in general. And the other point, yeah, I meant to get to this, but Sim has brought this up as well. It's hard to build maps visually that make sense in hexes. Yeah, especially buildings. Unless you just want to construct a setting where everyone decides themselves to build their forts and houses in circular-ish patterns. It's hard to build a hallway or like make hallways intersect at oblique angles so that they conform with the lines in a hex or something. It's not very natural to just build normal human structures in hex, so it's harder to create maps that function on the scale of having units move between walls and buildings. It's, I think, more suited to moving armies across terrain. By armies, I mean like groups of unit, and terrain is like fields or regions or continental sized scale map. You should do a podcast. It's fun listening to you talk and your opinions on gaming and stuff. I don't think the world needs more podcasters. Funny thing though is my dad knows that I have a YouTube channel, but in his mind, like, he doesn't watch or anything. In his mind, like, the revenue that YouTube pays me and stuff, like, that's my podcast money, which I think is very cute. I'm like, that's fine. That's a perfectly valid way of thinking of it. Hi, Mr. Zoran's dad. I'll pass along your hello, Electric VGC. I am a human person who has family, it turns out. So anyone else have any other topics or questions they want to ask about? I have a little bit more time. I don't want to sit here for like another 2 hours, but I have a little bit more in me if anyone else has anything they want to discuss. How's the game? Marco, it went... I would rate this like an 80% success. Because I had done fairly extensive testing on what I was presenting for Chapter 1 over the last few days, and then both of the different scenarios that I had built strategies for went at least slightly wrong. I think both are fixable, and for one of them, I think we basically worked out what the problem is and the skills that we have to avoid that problem. The other one will take a little bit more work. So it didn't quite come off as perfectly as I was hoping, and I've discovered, unfortunately live before I was able to like rectify this myself, that there are some issues that need to be solved. But hey, that's how it goes. Did you end up playing Xenoblade X Deluxe Edition? I played a chunk of it. I did not finish it. It's one of those things where I didn't get totally sucked in the way I have for Xenoblade 2 and 3. And like, I'm just not as big a fan of the more MMO style combat in 1 and in X. And I kind of knew that going in, but I was just really curious to explore Mira and see what it's all about. And it's just like the exploration component is okay, but I feel like that side of it is very reminiscent of a game from 15 years ago, which it is. And the combat is not that fulfilling to me, so it's something where I'd still like to do more of it, but I'm just not like totally sucked into it the way I was with some of the other Xenoblades. How's the Train Everyone challenge looking? Still coming along. I didn't get a lot of prep work done over the last few months. Like I said, I've been busy with other stuff, but I did a little bit. So I have things more or less planned out for the next few chapters, which are all paralogs coming up. There were a couple things I had to revisit. So some of you may be aware, the way I've been doing this, or like planning this whole thing, is I have a save file that's on fixed growths that I've been using for like developing all my strategies. And then as the actual playthrough gets to those chapters, I have to adapt those fixed average growth strategies to make sure they still work with the growth I've actually gotten. And by and large, I still have. Like that hasn't been a huge problem, but on occasion I have to reconfigure stuff. So that takes a little bit of work. And I am several chapters ahead on the average stats playthrough, but I haven't. What am I on? Like episode 30 is what I published, I think. I think I'm on like the 36th or 37th map for my planning file. And I have actually like tested the strategies for the next episode with the actual Let's Play file. And they will all work. I just need to actually sit down and like practice here a little bit so I get it down right and then record it and write commentary, which is unfortunately, because of the way I decided to produce everything, a bit of an ordeal that takes a substantial time commitment. So I do expect to be picking up the next episode fairly soon. But I'm traveling next week, so it won't be next week, I'll tell you that. Any interest in Hollow Knight or Silksong? Those games your style? I've never tried either of them. Obviously, I've heard many great things about them. I do like Metroidvanias. I've been a big fan of Metroid for a while. And I do like Souls-like elements as well. So I think they could be really cool. It's one of those things I know is great. I probably really like. I've just not gotten into because I have other things I want to do. It is a little bit unfortunate. Like, I think everyone who gained any kind of following from just doing like one particular game or series has felt this, but like the truth is, like, in terms of viewership, my channel is mostly a Fire Emblem channel. So it's always a little bit discouraging if I can pull like this stream had something like 200 people viewing at one point, and it's a little bit discouraging feeling to like be streaming some other game and get like 15 or 20. Now I love and adore everyone who shows up, and I don't do this, like, YouTube stuff is not my career. If it was, I would probably be posting videos a lot more often, because there's no way I'm making enough money to live on doing something like every 4 months or so. But YouTube stuff is not my career, so it's not like a problem for me if I just do something that I want to do and fewer people want to watch it. But it does make it so that, like, I feel an obligation to not go and like spend all my time doing other stuff, because I know that most of my viewers want to see my Fire Emblem content. I think I do a really good job with it, and I'm proud of what I do with it, and I enjoy making what I do. But it's always kind of, it feels worse. Like, it hurts your ego a little bit if you're not getting the same numbers on everything else. And I think pretty much everyone who streamed and didn't like start as a variety person has felt that way. Are we allowed to know what Prologue is next? It's not any big secret. Didn't I say what it was going to be? Or at least hint at it at the end of the last episode? Pretty sure I did. But now I'm double checking because I just don't want to say the wrong thing. Yeah, I was right. Okay. Yeah, it's Nina's Prologue. Yeah, Nina's next. You're a singing YouTuber, right? When I want to be. I don't think I'm, you know, that'll never be my career. Let's put it that way. But it's fun. When's the next cover song? I actually did record a full version of Lightning in the Bottle for the last episode of the Let's Play. So that was me singing. There are both instances that came up, and I did actually record that song in full and then take samples of it for the Train Everyone episode. I was pretty happy with that whole recording and all the everything I did with it, the whole song. When I made it, I have also realized that sometimes I'll do that and then I'll come back and listen to it again. And I haven't done this with. It's called Electric Love, not Lightning in a Bottle, the song name. But I have not gone back and re-listened to it. So maybe I don't know, maybe I'll still feel really happy with what I did, but I also might come back to it and be like, this wasn't as good as I really felt like it was at the time, and I should do better. So I don't know. I might publish it, I might not. Do you have socials or anything you post where you're doing streams other than YouTube community tab? No, not really. I don't have much of an outreach strategy. I have social media accounts that I don't want to associate with my YouTube presence. And frankly, I don't really want to be on X, the everything app formerly known as Twitter, or Blue Sky as anything other than a lurker. I don't want to be involved in that kind of stuff. So, I don't know. YouTube is famously kind of bad as a streaming platform for discoverability. Although in some ways it has advantages over Twitch. Twitch is even worse if you don't have a high viewer count to start with. So, yeah, I don't do a lot of self-promotion. I could probably benefit from doing that a bit more. I just don't like doing it, and I don't want to build a social media presence, really. I've also, never set up my own Discord server or anything like that. I do have people I would consider friends who I met through the Fire Emblem community, who I've, worked with on things in the past and still have a good relationship with now. But, I don't want to have a Discord and have to have moderators and all that stuff. It just seems like a huge pain. And I don't want to be responsible for what goes on there, or feel like I've empowered the wrong people, and because you'd be surprised what people do with being a Discord moderator. I'm sure some of you know, but a lot of people. There's a surprising number of people who let that tiny modicum of power go to their heads. Opinion on Camilla being the best unit in Fate's Conquest. I think she's number one, the best unit in Fire Emblem Fate's Conquest. I pretty much stand by every word I said in that last video, except that it's not literally true that no one can replicate what Camilla does. If you just check, what does it take for Camilla to do amazing things versus what does it take for everyone else to do amazing things, it's comical how little it takes for Camilla. For her, in the setup I showed in preps for that video was real. That was the preparations for having Camilla do everything that Elise did. And all she needs is one tonic, a Forged Thunder Tome, and a Dark Knight para partner, I think, or something like that. It's so little. The Raider Axe and Disrobing Gale were a trip to see. Yes. The only reason I used those was because I wanted to fully commit to having our Ursat's Camilla be on her bases, so that when I was saying, hey, this is Camilla, she's on her base stat, she's never leveled up or gained anything. I wanted that to be true. So that meant I was using 5-1 at least, basically. If you train her the way she can train, even in a like low turn count setting, up through chapter, I guess not through chapter 12, because she's not in chapter 12, but up through chapter 11, at least can very comfortably get to like level 13 or 14, unpromoted. And then she has, well, okay, that might be stretching a little bit for LTC. You can get a lot of kills in chapter 10 though. I'll say like 12. You can comfortably get to like level 12. I think I'll stand by that. And that gives her very, very good chances to hit her speed growth 3 times. And if she does that, she doesn't need the, she doesn't need the Disrobing Gale or the Raider app. I'd have to double check to be sure, but I think at the same time, like, if she levels up, she's likely to hit some growths, and then she doesn't need Corrin support either necessarily. For example, you can pull off Arthur Niles' friendship in time and bring Adventurer Arthur, who I think also gets the job done, because he'll give what, like 4 speed and B support 2 strength and the movement that she needs. And Elise will probably have gained enough HP and defense to be okay on her own. So, like, there are alternatives, but I really wanted to commit to my fake Camilla was still on her bases, so I had to stretch things a little bit, and the speed threshold was the big thing that required the Raider weapons in that case. And yes, Toriko, it was funny to also strip the enemies every time. Are we preparing for the inevitable future train everyone Awakening Lunatic Plus run? Kinda, sorta, maybe? I don't think... If I were to do another Train Everyone challenge of any kind, it would definitely be a live stream and not a whole production like I've done for Conquest. I don't... certainly for Awakening, it would not be anywhere near as meticulously planned because it's just not a game that supports that kind of planning. Just the nature of the combat system in Awakening is totally different. It's much more chance-based. But what I do see, what I did on the stream earlier, was building toward, and I talked about this earlier as well, is building up a more complete library of strategies to get through the earliest chapters without pumping all the XP into Robin, and being able to build a solid team after that point, getting into chapter 3, 4, 5. How do you branch out and start feeding people like Virion more, or get more XP on Sumia, build supports to get to the important speed benchmarks, set up units who can one-round the Wyvern Riders in chapter 5 and chapter 7, that kind of thing. How do we feel about an Awakening remake on Switch 2? I'd be surprised. I think it could be cool. One of the things that makes me sad about Switch 2 Fire Emblem is it seems like, unfortunately, the prospects for Switch 2 hacking are nowhere near as good as the Switch 1 or basically all previous Nintendo consoles. And it was going to be really hard for Switch 1 too, except there was a hardware fault in the original grid-derived chips that NVIDIA supplied for Nintendo, which is why people were able to load custom firmware and stuff really early in the Switch's life cycle. And to be clear, I don't care about that in terms of sailing on the high seas. What I care about is being able to do things like take out, extract and decrypt and edit save files, because that makes doing interesting things as content for Fire Emblem games a lot easier. So I mean, depending on how the save files work and stuff like that in Fortune's Weave, it may be that like you can't do there may not be as many interesting ways to do challenges or to like demonstrate different things in different chapters, that kind of stuff. And I brace myself for that now, but it just seems like that's the way it's going to be. Did you like the Nick's answer from Septistar? Yeah, absolutely. She and I, I'll let you in on a secret here. She and I were talking about that, like as soon as she started working on it. Like I knew it was coming. And there may be, now I can't guarantee this, there may be a sequel from someone else, but we'll see. Chris, you don't want Fire Emblem Reawakening? Like, I don't think there's a lot to gain from remaking Awakening in terms of like reimagining or modernizing the game. I think it could be cool. What I would, if they did remake it, I would actually love to see Awakening rebuilt with some of the systematic changes that Fates introduced, because I think that could be really fun. Just as like an alternate take on the whole game. So you get a different experience from the original Awakening, but you also get a different experience from Fates, because of the different difficulty modes and the way the game is structured and the story and all that stuff. There might be some fancy editing around the turn wheel. The turn wheel does make a lot of that stuff easier. But for example, I doubt... I've never done an actual 0% growth run of anything, and I'm not that interested in doing a full 0% growth run of any Fire Emblem game. But I doubt we will have 0% growth Fortune's Weave anytime in the next several years, unless there's a big breakthrough in Twitch 2 hacking. Feature Enthusiast says Awakening was your first Fire Emblem game. It's very dear to you. I'm in the same boat. I'm still quite fond of it, even though as a real Fates head now, I've fallen in love with the revised mechanics in Fates. And I don't love the systems in Awakening as much. Although I do like the story and the characters better in Awakening. But also, the fun thing about doing like what I'm doing now, what I did on this stream and other stuff, is like I am a more experienced Fire Emblem player now, and a better one, I think. And because I know more about how the games work and I have more skills with it, I'm able to go back to Awakening and understand how to approach it a little bit better. And I think that makes the gameplay systems in Awakening more fun, even though they are quite different from how Fates does it. Overall, I like the principles behind the way the skills work in Fates and how dual strikes and dual guards and everything. And I like that more in Fates, but I'm able to appreciate and use the Awakening mechanics more now. I mean, you don't like the Deep Realms children's story better than the Awakening children? Real shocker, but no, I don't. And actually, like, this may surprise you, but there's really not a single, like, character relationship in Fates that I personally care about. Like, I've done a lot of content with Corrin marrying Ophelia. I do not care about Ophelia as a character, like, at all. I think she has some kind of funny crit quotes, but I don't like, it doesn't matter to me that whether Corrin and Ophelia have good supports or anything. I just think it's a kind of fun thing to do in gameplay terms. And there are some, like, there's some aspects of it that I think are fun, like making Glissa a great grandmother, but that's like totally incidental. But there are some things I am like genuinely a fan of in Awakening. Like, I honestly really like the male Robin and Lucina relationship. I think it works really well. I think it adds a really interesting dynamic to the lead characters in the game, and ties like the thematic content and the different story arcs in Fates or in Awakening gather really nicely in a way that kind of feels like it gets missed if there's not a relationship along those lines. I think it's just like it's a cool story. Now, do I think Awakening story is the most groundbreaking or perfect story in the world? No, but I think it sets up cool scenarios that are just more interesting to think about than anything in Fates. What's your favorite FE cast as characters? With the caveat that I have played fewer Fire Emblems than you might think. I guess I would say Three Houses, just because that setting and those characters as a whole feel more fleshed out and well realized than basically any of the other games I've played. So like as an entire cast, I think it's Three Houses. The best written Fates characters are ironically the ones that come from Awakening. I think they're up there. There is the rather stupid problem that they have the whole Hidden Truths mission with Anankos, and then that just doesn't come up ever in the actual game. Like, at no point in any of the routes in Fire Emblem Fates do Selena and Odin and Laszlo at all acknowledge that, hey, this Corrin guy is, you know, the son of that dragon dude who transported us here, and we need to work with him. Which makes things, like, if that canonically happened, and that's how they got into the Fates world, it makes the outcome in Birthright really stupid. I think Awakening story became so interesting with the Thebes dungeon in Echoes. I think it does build on that a little bit. I was a fan of seeing the creation in Echoes. I think that's a pretty cool tie-in. Future Enthusiast says, I think with the Fargus characters, it really shows how their culture influenced them as people. Haven't really gotten that from any FE characters in DS or Switch games. I believe that. I have like seen a lot of supports at some point, but I have to tell you, I have still never once played Blue Lions. I've never even selected them at the beginning of the game for even a second. And I don't know if I ever will. It's not because I hate them or anything. I played Golden Years my first playthrough, and then I played Crimson Flower, and actually didn't finish Silver Snow. But then I went back to Verdant Wind to do my playthrough on my channel for that, and I was like, at that point, I'm like, I'm 3 houses out. 3 houses out. I feel like I've gotten what I wanted out of the game, and maybe someday I'll revisit it, but I just don't. There is nothing that's pulling me back. It's like, you've got to do Blue Lions. I kind of wish more FE games had dedicated post games like in Echoes. That is something I'm actually in favor of. I think it's cool to have a post game challenge map. I think having an Apotheosis is a great idea. I think having a post-game dungeon like Thebes is a great idea. I don't think New Game Plus, like the way it worked in Three Houses, works very well. I don't think I forget what they were called, but there's kind of an attempt at doing something like that with the, what are they called? The challenge maps or whatever in Engage. But I just don't think... The problem for me with Engage is I think the systems, and the thing that stopped me from like being a huge fan of Engage in the long term is I think the systems that they put in the control of the player in Engage are too powerful. And once you understand how to use them, the game becomes less fun. That doesn't have to happen with every kind of powerful gameplay mechanic. Like, there are tons of extremely powerful mechanics in Fates, but I think mastering those mechanics in Fates makes it more fun to play. I think there's like more cool stuff you can do, and like interesting maneuvers and challenges like what I'm doing with training everyone that are just interesting and fulfilling and make the game like have replay value. Whereas once you really understand how the emblems work and Engage, there is no challenge left in the game anymore. Everything can be solved by some combination of like bondage shield, just having ridiculous immunity for several turns in a row, and multi-warps, and just skipping every map from the bosses. And you don't even have to have very strong units to kill the bosses because some of the emblems just essentially solve that for you. So it just feels like I did my one stream playthrough, and by the end of it, I had like started cracking how things like bondage shield really worked, and it was like, oh wow, this is way more powerful than I imagined. But on my stream playthrough, I didn't go hard into that. I didn't do warp skips. I played with all the royals, who are mostly kind of okay characters, but not especially good. And that preserved a lot of the thrill and the challenge for me in that playthrough. But by the end of it, like, I knew what I would do with everything, and then coming back to the game and doing repeat playthroughs, it just felt like, no, once I got past the early game, I know how to solve everything, and there's just not much else to do with this anymore. Toriko, you said you're also not a big fan of how everyone can do anything in recent Fire Emblem games. I agree with that too. I like having a reclassing system. I think that makes for like really interesting decisions. I think I'll make no secret of the fact that I think Fates did it best. I think it's wonderful how in Fates the reclassing options are tied in with the support system, and like, so building supports in a timely manner is a really important idea that can dramatically improve your characters, or maybe not improve them, but give them interesting things to do. Like, if you just want to make everyone an outlaw as much as possible, you could do that, more or less. And that's kind of fun, and it's just not the same if everyone can go be a thief. Chris, you always thought it would be cool on if maddening enemies had randomized bond rings depending on the dark emblem the boss had. That could be cool. I'm more partial to, I think Seppi floated the idea of what if we don't worry about, resource scarcity in terms of how many bosses or how many enemies are allowed to have emblem rings? What if basically after the midpoint of the game, you just see like 12 enemies who have emblem rings on every map? Maybe they're dark emblems that represent your boss enemies instead of being the heroes from previous Fire Emblems. Just something to like preserve the dynamism that you got in places like, I think it was Chapter 17, where it was 6 on 6. The enemies had 3 emblem ring, or had 6 emblem rings, and you had 6 emblem rings. That was pretty cool. I wish it had escalated from there instead of kind of diminishing from there. Big Dog says, I feel like Engage shouldn't have had reclassing. They did not design the game with reclassing, I can tell you that. That is very, very obvious if you just spend any time thinking about how the different weapons are balanced and how the different promotion options are balanced. You can just tell. For example, why is the Levin Sword so much better than the Flame Lance? It's because the only people who are supposed to have the Levin Sword are Saline and Clan, the Sword Mage Knight, and the Royal with the custom sword and tome class. You're not supposed to have Levin Sword Chloe. Chloe is supposed to be a Lance Flyer. Well, she is a Lance Flyer. It's supposed to be a Lance Griffin. So if you want to give her a magic weapon, she gets the Flame Lance, which is worse. And that's kind of a balancing function, but they just let you promote her to Sword Griffin so she can use the Levin Sword, and now everything's stupid. So, I expect to see, on the topic of class changes, I expect to see that in Fortune's Weave. I don't think that's going away ever. Although it seems like they're maybe moving away from a player avatar, which I am all for. I think they really they played out the idea with Robin, and then drained every last drop of like interest that could come from having a player insert character in Fates, and there wasn't much left. And then having Byleth be a mute nothing of a character was a serious problem with that game that I think really diminished the potential for like getting invested in the relationship between, you know, Byleth and the rest of the cast. I think having a silent protagonist in Three Houses was bad. And I mean, Alir is kind of not a self-insert, really. It's nice that they do have dialogue and everything, but yeah, I think the whole Avatar concept is played out and kind of sucks at this point. I do, so like I said, I expect reclassing in Fortune's Weave. I'm hoping against hope that it is Fate's reclassing. That's what I want to see. Maybe even without Heartsteel classes. I would love it if it's just like, you get friendship classes, you get a friendship class and a partner class. I think that's, and their branch promotions. That would be aces. I would love it. Alir and Byleth having fixed appearances helped, but Byleth being mute and Alir looking like that killed you. I think I agree on both fronts. I was surprised when I tried out the mods that give Alir just red hair or just blue hair, how much more I liked the designs. And I don't like hate the artist or like their designs or anything. I just feel like it's, yeah, the bright red and the blue are also both ridiculous hair colors, but there's something that just feels a little bit more grounded about not having multicolored hair. And I think that helps. Blue roots and red tips instead of the two-sided split. I mean, that could also be fine, maybe. I mean, that's the parry maneuver, right? VTuber designs are fine for VTubers, but maybe not FE Pro tags. I think broadly I agree. Yeah, I don't really like VTuber designs in general. At least not like the ones where it's like anime. I mean, like all the most notable ones, I guess, are something like anime girl face, ridiculous color combinations and adornments, and probably animal features all blended together. It's too much for me. Character design peaked in Fates. I really, what's the artist's name? Kozaki for Awakening in Fates, I think. All of the character designs were amazing, and I think, especially in Fates, a lot of the. I can't speak for every outfit because there's some really stupid things like female mounted class outfits, but a lot of the generic outfits are really, really amazing. A lot of the character designs are really good. They have a lot of distinctive looks. I really do like the Fates and Awakening character designs. I don't mind Engage's. I don't mind Engage's sillier tone. Like I genuinely really enjoyed in the final chapter when it's like, God, I forget the line, but when Alir summoned all the emblems, and it was just like completely over the top ridiculousness. I loved it. It was so much fun. And it's like, this game knows what it is, and it's embracing it, and that's cool. I think it's tough. It's kind of unfortunate that Engage puts its silliest and kind of most childish characters forward first. Definitely establishes a lighter tone than the game before it. But I think it works to the detriment of the game because there are some more interesting, serious themes that come up in supports and in the story and things, but that's not the impression you get at the beginning, which is kind of a shame. But yeah, I think Engage followed up on many of the concepts in Fates in a really interesting way. I just think, like as far as like gameplay and stuff like that, it just unfortunately for me, they went overboard and made the tools available to the player too powerful and not in an interesting way. Unfortunately, or it's too powerful relative to what the enemies can do. If there were like, if you could expect to see like multi-warps thrown at you from another enemy emblem Micaiah for the rest of the game, like there were things on that level that like they hit you with those surprises, I would maybe feel differently, but the game can't resist you enough, unfortunately. That said, Marinari, I am, like you said, just Engage just ain't it for you because you like the more serious games. I am happy to be going back to a more serious setting in Poland. I'm excited for that. I prefer that tone in general, but I didn't hate the fun. What was it like? 20th or 25th anniversary, let's get all the protagonists together and have a good time style of Engage. Am I looking forward to the new FE game? Aside from just the setting, yes, cautiously optimistic. I'm not all aboard the hype train, but I will certainly play it when it comes out, and I think there's a lot of good stuff to hope for. I guess technically we might not be going back to Fodlan per se. People have been speculating that it's off to like Dagdar. Was it Dagda? The name of the continent or the country that Shamir was from was Dagda, wasn't it? Or Albania or something like that. Which maybe, but my guess, and I will not, you know, be bothered in the slightest if I'm wrong, but my guess is this is like precursor to a Drestia kind of setting. So I think it is Fodlan. Who's your favorite lord of the series? Lucina. Unless you say she doesn't count, but she's got lord in her class name. Does Fodlan's world have a name? I don't think so. The one thing that's always kind of annoyed me, that people complain about with Fates, is the continent not having a name. But that's because it's two continents. Like, there's the western continent, which is Nor, and the eastern continent, which is Hoshido. And they are separated by a bottomless pit, which is, you know, it's not an ocean between them, but it's more of a justification for separate continents than, like, Europe from Asia. And there's a country called Nor that dominates the center of the continent of Nor and is the principal power, and likewise for Hoshido. But there's nothing wrong with that. Octul, Lucina is not a game over condition. She can die. Except in Future Past, I think. In the DLC. Anyhow, I might do a kind of reaction or analysis video to the Ocean's Weed trailer, but I'm leaning towards not, just because I think that's laid out and I don't have a lot to add right now, with what everyone else has already published. And there's no way I was going to get any kind of, I mean, other than just a pure reaction video, there was no way I was going to get out a kind of detailed analysis video the first day, like a dozen other people already did. So I'm not going to worry too much about that. But yeah, I think we'll see more about it fairly soon, actually. My guess is it's going to be like a late spring release. I don't have anything concrete to go on with that. I just feel like it looked pretty polished in terms of things like the UI design in this trailer, which is very different from say the first Three Houses trailer. Like if you look at the original Three Houses video, there's all sorts of things that are just kind of, you know, unrefined about it. Even like basic stuff like the kerning in the font they chose. So like things just aren't aligned quite right, or they just look weird in the space that they have, because they were just using a placeholder font instead of one that was like, you know, properly designed for English text, for example. And I haven't gone over everything with the microscope, but it seems to me like there's more flourishes in elements like the UI design that probably wouldn't have happened if this game were still a long ways away. So I kind of think it's going to be late in the first half of 2026. We've spent a good amount of time yapping at the end of the stream. I've actually enjoyed it, so for those of you who stuck around, which is quite a few of you, thanks for participating. It's been a pleasure showing this stuff to you guys and then just chatting about Fire Emblem and other topics for a little while. I expect to be back on streaming. I'm traveling for the first part of next week, so maybe towards the end of next week, or maybe a little while after that. But my plan is, like I said earlier, to get back to the Elden Ring playthrough and finish that out with the last few episodes. We are in the in-game DLC stuff, so if you'd like to see any of that stuff that'd be interesting, then do drop in. And then I will also be working on the next episode of the Train Everyone Challenge at some point soonish. So thanks for coming out. Glad to see all of you here in the chat, and for those of you who just lurked, glad you were here to watch and listen. Hope you enjoy everything else that's coming, and I will see you again soon.